When most educators think about professional development, they think, what will I get out of it? Or, will this be relevant to me? Traditional sit and get PD is often delivered by an expert, lacks peer interaction, and doesn't discuss implications on practice. EdCamp is an innovative unconference model for professional learning that is discussion-based and completely driven by participants so that educators can engage in the areas in which they want to gain and contribute knowledge. At EdCamp, what you're going to see, experience, and feel is the connection with other educators. Any educator can organize and attend an EdCamp. Over 3,000 have taken place across all 50 states since 2010. To ensure that every EdCamp delivers an authentic experience, they are designed based on 5 tenets, free and open to all educators. EdCamps are designed to expand professional learning communities by encouraging educator participation across schools and districts. That's why EdCamps never charge a fee and are open to educators of all levels, subjects, and schools. Participant-driven. EdCamps give educators voice and choice by engaging them in hands-on learning around topics suggested by the participants in the room. Topics are collected and collated to build consensus, then used to create the session board. This represents the space where educators can personalize their own learning. Once the session board is built, participants choose which sessions they want to attend. Experience, not experts. EdCamps encourage conversations, not planned presentations. Participants facilitate small group discussions by sharing knowledge and experiences with one another instead of listening to an expert lecture. Everyone gets a chance to be heard. Rule of 2 feet. EdCamps invite participants to find sessions that meet their needs to maximize learning. If a session is not resonating, we encourage them to move on to another session that will. Participants have the autonomy to get up and choose their learning. It's completely democratized. For online EdCamps, we call it the rule of 2 clicks because your fingers do the walking. Vendor-free. Vendors are not permitted to attend EdCamps so that educators don't feel pressure to purchase goods or services that they don't need or find irrelevant. Every EdCamp is unique. The power of each event resides in its participants. They reflect the community and the people who show up. If you're ready to learn, share, and connect, we want you to join us. At EdCamp, the most important person is you. Find an EdCamp near you. Register today.
Imagine how education can transform my life.
I deserve powerful learning experiences that prepare me for lifelong success.
What if every student had access to technology and tools that enabled them to solve problems in their own communities and throughout the world? What if every learning experience could lead to economic security, well-being, and agency? Imagine the future of learning. Join us.
At Digital Promise, we work at the intersection of educators, researchers, and entrepreneurs to tackle some of education's biggest challenges. We connect people and ideas through networks, conduct research about learning science and technology, and share stories that inspire action. We seek innovations that promote opportunity. We believe that technology and powerful learning experiences engage, motivate, and develop agency, paving the way for a more equitable and productive future. When everyone has access to learning technology, when everyone participates, and when everyone learns, we all benefit from a more engaged, informed, and just society.
Ever wondered how you can be recognized for professional learning throughout your career? Microcredentials recognize the skills you've developed to drive learning in and out of your classroom. This lets you personalize your learning based on interests, your students' needs, and school and district goals. By shifting how learning is recognized, from seat time to demonstrated competence, micro-credentials make the growing wealth of resources you use, from virtual communities and online tools to coaches and mentors, more relevant and meaningful. You can select a single micro-credential or a stack, collect the required evidence, and submit it online for assessment. If successful, you will earn the micro-credential and get a shareable digital badge to enhance your profile, resume, and validate your unique skills. To see what this can mean for you and your school, explore the micro-credential platform today.
Today, I discovered new types of plants and insects. I learned about real-life things, not just from a book.
In order to be any kind of scientist, you have to have a curiosity, and you have to observe the world, and all of that is art. The scientific process is that you basically test your hypothesis. In art, you're testing your idea. There's an app where you can observe nature, and then it lets you classify everything that you see. Just a little bit of patience. As science and art always takes patience. Another way we use the tablets, instead of researching online, you're doing your own research by photographing things that you want to then draw.
When I go outside and take photos of plants and bugs, I actually feel happy that I'm discovering something new.
The more you see, the more you know the world and how you fit into the world. How do I make it darker? More paint. More paint.
What I like about technology now in art, if you make a mistake, you might like that mistake. It can be a happy accident.
The most exciting moment for me is that students find and discover something with their eyes.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, friends. I say good evening only because I know that this event is now being watched by friends from all over the world and not just North America. You know, what we have in this Teacher Tech Summit is this extravaganza where we ask teachers who are at the forefront of all of our classrooms and our education systems to actually come together, learn, and share, importantly, what their peers are doing from around the world. This Teacher Tech Summit series this year builds upon 2 previous years worth of work, where last year when we had 2 days worth of an event, the feedback we received was really simple. Teachers wanted this event to be in their time zone, they wanted it in their local language, and they wanted it with content from their region or their country. And so what we've done this year is we've organized the Teacher Tech Summit to take place with various partners around the world. So for example, earlier in the week, we had a session called EdTech Insights, which brought together innovators from around the world to actually, to a teacher audience, to explain what the latest innovations were, how they work in the classrooms, and delve deeply into some of the subjects that we all care about. We also had a global showcase, which is our central platform for the whole world, where teachers from around the world came together to understand practices from different contexts and different parts of the world. Then last night, we had the Teacher Tech Summit Brazil, which was entirely in Portuguese. And you know, I think that was just an outstanding event, which even finished with a song, which was quite fantastic for community building. Today, we have this USA Teacher Tech Summit that's taking place. And then later on next week, we have one for Spanish-speaking Latin America. We have one in the Middle East in Arabic as well. And we cap it off with a session with the World Bank, which is one of our co-hosts for this event. Now, the reason why I tell you all this is that none of this would have been possible without just the incredible friendship, solidarity, and support that has been provided to the series by our local partners. And in this case, in America, you know, we couldn't find anyone more appropriate or at least anyone as credible as Digital Promise to be our partner. And so please know that I'm grateful to all of Digital Promise, all of the colleagues, Jean-Claude, Eric, Chola, and the whole team for all the support that you've provided in making this a reality. You know, why this is important is quite simply that a lot of the technologies that are used in classrooms around the world actually have their foundation and they're kickstarted in America. And so when you have teachers around the world using technologies, you are at the forefront in North America of all that is happening that we want to know about in the rest of the world. So we're really grateful to Digital Promise and all the teachers who are here today who will present how they've incorporated tech and tools in their practice, because I know the whole world is watching and will be able to benefit from this. It would be remiss of me not to thank our partners beyond our organizational partners. No event is possible without financial sponsorship or support. And for that reason, I want to thank the Coppel Foundation in Mexico and Spiffio, which is our translation partner, for enabling us to actually deliver this series this year. Now, you know, one of the things that we love doing at T4 is understanding where you come from. And so what I want to do right now is ask you all, whichever platform you're participating in, to actually go on there and tell me where you're from. It's a really important side of it. We want you to go and comment and say, tell us where you're from, because all of our speakers want to also know where is it that you are going to be implementing practices around the world. Now, it may be in North America, it may be in the USA, but it equally may be in other places. And when my friend Eric Burmeister of Digital Promise, who is our MC today, comes up, we'll review some of these comments. Now, without further ado, you know, it goes without saying that we are very excited as T4 to bring this together. Our entire purpose has been to build a very large community of teachers around the world, because this is rooted in our belief that peer-to-peer learning and support, I think, are the game changers when it comes to education outcomes. And that is why we have our own platform called the T4 Communities app. And I'd like to encourage all of you to go to the iOS or the Android store and just type in T4 communities. And if you want to be part of a global community, you're more than welcome to download. It's entirely free, and you have lots and lots of opportunity to meet like-minded teachers from around the world who want to collaborate, who want to share, who want to learn, but more importantly, who want to be there for each other. If those are your values, then please also download the app and join us on this journey. Now, without further ado, like I said, I want to bring on the MC of the event. When we talk about MCs, these people are electric. They're a force of personality. And I know that I'm watching him backstage over here. He's smiling. He's saying, "You're setting me up to fail." No, Eric, I'm not. We just know your potential, young man. And so please welcome Eric Burmeister. Eric.
Thank you so much, Vikas, and a big thank you to T4 Education and your team for inviting Digital Promise to co-produce this amazing event with the T4 team. I hope I can live up to your billing, so thank you so much. Wow. We have an outstanding program in store for our participants. Vikas, did you have something you wanted to add?
Well, Eric, if it doesn't go too well, you can take a snooze in the back over there, I see. Yes, that's true. No, I know you're attending a conference and you're doing this from a hotel room, so we fully understand. But before we go any further, what I do want to do is I want to see where all these teachers are coming in from, and
Absolutely.
So we can see for ourselves, right? So yes. Here we have Al Musawi from Kuwait. Welcome, Kuwait. Saeed Sarwat from Kashmir in India. Welcome. Fatma is from Egypt. Phenomenal. Welcome. Amar is from Syria. Phenomenal. Welcome, Syria. Ayel Maoui is from Morocco. Welcome. Another Fatma is from Tunis. Fantastic. Welcome to the Teacher Tech Summit. Now, this is where it gets even better. This is our first American teacher to go on there. Greetings from Jacksonville, Florida. Now, his name is William Jackson. Do you think there's a little Eric? This is auspicious, as we would say, my mother would say in particular, and on it goes. Here's Kalyani from India, who's a T4 country ambassador. Welcome, Kalyani. Thank you always for supporting. North Macedonia. How cool is that? Welcome. Unfortunately, I don't understand the script, so I can't pronounce your name. So I apologize for that. But it's great to see you here. Tanya bom dia from Brazil. Please don't ask me anything else in Portuguese. But welcome to you as well. My friend over here, Mayowa Oniosun from Nigeria. Welcome. Adriana, you've attended quite a lot of these now. Welcome from Serbia. Fantastic. Well, here is a friend from America, Joe, saying, "Thank you for putting this on. It is our pleasure. It's in the service of teaching. So thank you for joining us." I think you pronounce this Tucson, right? In Arizona. Welcome to you. Kalyani, again, she's not blowing hot air up you, but here, wow, what a digital promise indeed. What a digital promise it is. Now here is Carolyn, our friend, from Washington DC. It is afternoon where you are. I checked that earlier on. This is amazing, someone says, and I'm just going to pull up a few more. Now check this out. Uzbekistan, the Silk Route. Eric, this is nuts. Look, all these people are joining in. Why is that, do you think? Well, it's quite simply because we want to know what happens in America. This is where all the magic happens, and we're keen to know what exactly is happening. Here's Latin American representation. Buenos Aires, welcome. George is from Lebanon. Thank you for joining, George. Bruno is from Rio de Janeiro. I've always wanted to go. I don't know about you, Eric. It's pretty cool, huh? Shreya Kemka from Owl Ventures, one of our co-hosts. She's watching from London. Thank you so much, Shreya. And we will pull more of these up as we go along. But I want to bring on some Americans because, this is quite an important thing. This is the Teacher Tech Summit USA. Where are our American friends? Here we are. Georgia, I assume the state of Georgia. Here we have Nashville, Virginia, California, Michigan, West Palm Beach, Madison, Utah, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Northern California, Santa Fe, yeah, Santa Fe, New Mexico. Of course, I wish I could pronounce this properly in the right accent. Alabama. How
well
cool
done,
is that?
well done.
I am, we have potential. Anyway, Eric, listen, I want to say, have a great Teacher Tech Summit. I really appreciate all these teachers who have joined us today. Please know that we're here in your service. We want this to be productive. And what we want you to do is go on to the comment section. And if you have any questions, please write a question so we can bring it up exactly like this, like what we have with all the messages, so that Eric and the teachers and the facilitators can see these questions, and then you can get a live answer. This is not just a one-way street. We want you to actually be able to ask questions and get responses. Eric, I'm going to leave this to you. Thank you so much. Good luck.
Thank you so much, Vikas. Somebody said in the comments, Kristen said here, reading out all of these locations is making me want to travel. And boy, is that not the case. We are so excited to have you join us today from all over the world. And it's such a wonderful reminder of how we are one global community trying to make amazing experiences for kids. We have an outstanding program in store for our participants, so let's get right to it. The Teacher Tech Summit is an opportunity to elevate the voices, experiences, and talents of our outstanding administrators, educators, and teachers. I know this from personal experience, having served as a teacher, a principal, and a superintendent, and I'm just so excited to introduce you to the folks who've become friends of mine as I've had the opportunity to see their journeys as innovative educators as we have planned this amazing experience today. The planning team of today's event has selected 15 exceptional educators who will share their stories and highlight some of their favorite digital tools. Today, we'll learn more about technologies that spark student creativity, serve the whole child, help us realize the vision of competency-based learning and assessment, preview classroom tech's future, and access personalized professional learning. Digital Promise is honored to co-sponsor this event. Since our inception, Digital Promise is focused on systems-level transformation that directly addresses the challenges that learners face, considering the impact of their communities and environments, and helping to prepare all learners for holistic, lifelong success. Digital technologies are not the answer, but they are a tool that, when designed well and leveraged properly, can assist teachers to realize equitable and important outcomes for all students. And that's why we are here today. We invite you to join us in this journey as we hear from some of our nation's most innovative teachers as they share technologies they love. Please continue to comment and ask questions in the chat as we will be reviewing that, and the planning team will make sure that your questions get posted and that this can not just be a conversation today, but be a conversation that goes into the future. To help inspire us as we begin this discussion, it is truly my honor to introduce Dr. Tanji Reed Marshall, who, like many of us, is joining you today from a San Diego hotel where many of us are attending the annual EdTech event known as ASU GSV. Dr. Tanji Reed Marshall is a nationally recognized and sought-after expert on educational equity and leadership. Dr. Marshall partners with schools, districts, states, and organizations throughout the U.S. and internationally to solve complex educational issues to improve student outcomes for all students, especially students who've been perpetually and systematically underserved. Through her more than 2 decades of educational experience, Dr. Marshall has a proven track record of results, supporting organizations in their work to ensure every student receives the excellent education they deserve, with representationally balanced and culturally rich curricula that meets their needs. Currently, Dr. Marshall is the CEO and principal consultant of Liaison Education Partners and the director of P12 practice at the Education Trust, and author of the newly published book, Understanding Your Instructional Power, Curriculum and Language Decisions to Support Each Student. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Tanji Reed Marshall. Dr. Reed Marshall, take it away.
Hello, everyone. I don't even have words to say thank you. I don't have the words to say welcome, but it is an honor. It is a privilege for me to join this incredible Education Tech Summit. Thank you so much for thinking enough of me and the work I do to have me share some ideas with you. I want to talk to everybody this morning for the next few minutes, this morning, this afternoon, this evening, wherever you are and whatever you're doing. I want to talk to you this morning about power, the power you have to make transformative change for the students you have the privilege and the honor to support. You are standing on the precipice of a fascinating time in history regarding education. You are gathered from around the world, literally, to learn about what it means to have educational power unleashed around the world. What an interesting thing to think about. And as Eric said, we are here to really champion what it means to think about how to bring to bear and unleash the power inside every student. What are their interests? What language do they bring to the table? What culture do they bring to you that can help you unlock their potential? We know the power of technology. We know that it is a world flattener. We know that it is an exposure generator. We know that it is a door opener. But we also know that it can be used as a tool or it can be used as a weapon. We want it to be used as a tool so that every single child you have the privilege to step into the life with has the opportunity to become everything they are meant to become. Through your understanding of who you are as a person, because when you walk into a classroom, you walk in with your full self and nothing gets left out. So through understanding who you are and by understanding the intersections of how you experience schools and then thinking about your students, you have the power to create an empowering environment. You can create an inventive empowerment environment, or you can stand up and protect that thing that means the most to you, or you can disenfranchise students. But you have a choice. And because you are here today, you are standing up to say that you believe in the inherent brilliance and capacity of every single child. And you are going to do everything in your power to partner with who your students are in their communities, in your systems, to bring about holistic global change that moves the world to a better place. Because you're going to create agentive, empowering environments that unleash the very best of who students are. You're going to do that in community. You're going to do that as you learn from one another. You're going to do that as you use technology to learn about who everybody is across this world. You're going to use that as you reach across aisles and reach across language and reach across culture to learn the dynamic humanity that is within every person, so that who we are shows the best of what the world is meant to be. I wish you everything that you have decided that you want to experience in this exciting summit. I look forward to learning from each of you, and it is fabulous that you are standing together in community to unleash the power of technology so that the curriculum and the language that you use supports every single child in honest, authentic ways that builds them up. It's an honor to serve you this morning, this afternoon, this evening. It is my pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for letting me be here.
Wow, thank you so much. I am inspired, and I can tell from the comments in the chat section how inspired you have made the folks who are joining us today feel. We are broadcasting live from the event website, but also we're broadcasting live from LinkedIn, from YouTube and Facebook, and we're seeing comments from all of those platforms. Just how empowered and inspired folks are feeling from those welcoming messages. Thank you so much, Dr. Reed Marshall. We look forward to purchasing your book and reading more about the work that you're doing to flatten the world and to bridge these experiences and empower our students and lift up their voices. So thank you so much. Our event today is divided into 5 master classes covering 5 important educational topics. Within each of the 5 master classes, 3 educators from across the United States will be highlighted. These teachers submitted videos that highlighted a favorite technology that addresses their respective topic. Those videos will be shared with you at the top of each master class. Following the video screenings, a facilitator from Digital Promise will lead you, the audience, in a discussion driven by your questions. And so today, I ask you, please engage in the comment section as our teachers are excited to answer the questions that you bring to bear. The success of today's event depends on that engagement and active participation. Whether you're joining from Facebook Live, from YouTube, from LinkedIn, or the event website, you have the ability to submit questions in the chat function. Moderators will select questions just as quickly as they are able to post on the live stream feed. Facilitators will integrate those questions into the discussion with their respective teacher panelists. You can ask questions about the highlighted technologies or broad questions about each theme. It's up to you. Let your curiosity drive the discussion. Each masterclass will last about 30 minutes. We'll have everyone out of here by 1 p.m. PST or 4 p.m. EST. We hope you'll stay for the entirety of the event and engage our panelists who are excited and ready to answer your questions. So let's get started. It is my pleasure to introduce Lisa Jobson, who will facilitate our first masterclass, Sparking Student Creativity. Lisa is the Director of Global Youth Voice at Digital Promise. Lisa taught high school in the U.S. and Africa, engaged in public diplomacy efforts with the U.S. U.S. State Department. She is a passionate advocate for the development of and amplification of youth voices. Lisa, it's our pleasure to welcome you to the stage. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Eric. Today's first masterclass is Sparking Student Creativity. Learning is a dynamic process, and in classrooms across the U.S. and the world, teachers are sparking student creativity and deep thinking with the use of technology. Joining us today are 3 educators from a variety of contexts sharing one of their favorite digital educational tools that increase relevance and unlock student engagement and ownership. Let's take a moment to meet them and hear what technologies they're employing to spark student creativity.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carla Neely, and I am a middle school STEM teacher in Cleveland, Ohio. The tech that I would like to highlight is Newsela. Newsela takes authentic, real-world content from trusted sources and makes it instruction-ready for 2nd through 12th grade classrooms. Newsela provides engaging, differentiated content for ELA, math, social studies, science, and social-emotional learning instruction. Because I believe that reading is everywhere, I integrate the Newsela articles into my STEM instruction. I love Newsela because I have the option of using it virtually or in person. And most importantly, my students have control in how they learn because when using the virtual platform, they can, for example, change the reading levels of the articles. In addition, have the articles being read to them if they choose. And they also get the opportunity to make anecdotal notes on their article virtually. I also enjoy how the Newsela binder allows me to look at the data that is related to my students' reading levels, comprehension, vocabulary, and writing. The impact that Newsela has had on my students is that all of them have grown at least a tier or more from where they have begun with me at the beginning of the school year. Because the articles pertain to such high interest topics, my students are beginning to enjoy reading, and that's something that I love. Remember, when students have access to relevant, high interest text within their zone of proximal development, learning transforms. With Newsela, student engagement in reading, writing, and critical thinking comes alive.
Hi, my name is Lindy, and I love to help teachers use technology as a learning tool. My topic is sparking student creativity through creating modern assessments. So what is a modern assessment? Students live in a world of media, social media, multimedia. Most carry many computers around in their pockets, yet when they enter a physical or virtual classroom, this world often ends. So a modern assessment is a formative or summative assessment that appeals to their world. A modern assessment brings what students do in their spare time into the classroom. And most importantly, a modern assessment cultivates creativity and critical thinking. Modern assessments are important because today's students live for sharing to authentic audiences via their YouTube channels, live streaming on Twitch, Snapchat, Instagram, and TikTok profiles, just to name a few. So how do we bring these experiences into the classroom? We often can't have a Snapchat account in the classroom environment, but there are many tools that allow you to recreate authentic sharing and learning experiences without the need for social media accounts. Today, we're going to focus on Canva, and one of the reasons is that Canva for Education is free to schools. If I were to ask you, what is the album cover of your life? What would the album of you look like? What songs would it include? This is a great introductory task that helps you get to know your students, which we know is critical to the learning process, but is also a primer for learning how to use Canva to create these modern assessments. Once you tackle this gateway task, the idea of creating an album cover or a playlist can easily become an assessment. Some examples: in English language arts, students could create a playlist that accompanies a story, book, poem, play, character. In social studies, a playlist or album cover can be created that reflects the period of time that's being studied. All of these ideas are easy using the magic of Canva templates. In Canva, you simply select the purple Create a Design button and search for what you want to create. In the example of the playlist or album cover, search for playlist or album. This visual shows you how I took a Canva template and turned it into the playlist of my life. So what else can you create in Canva? Well, Canva makes it easy to create memes, social media graphics for any social media platform: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok. You can create Instagram Reels and TikTok videos. Yes, you heard that right. Canva also supports video. And a student favorite, you can create snaps, both graphics and videos. This is super easy to do with that magical purple Create a Design button. You can create whatever you want. So if I want to create a meme, I just click Create a Design and I search for meme. It's really that easy, I promise. Thank you for learning, and happy creating in Canva.
On average, internet users in the United States visit over 100 web pages per day, watch over 14 hours of videos per week, and listen to over 30 podcast episodes per month. Yet studies show that students in the United States take nearly 100 million tests each year. Something's not adding up. Hi everyone, my name is Kieran. I'm the Technology Integration Specialist at Quaker Valley School District in Leedsdale, Pennsylvania. Quaker Valley is a small district with a reputation for quality. Our small class sizes allow for a personal approach to instruction. Our students and teachers use Apple products to enhance learning in the classroom. I have been serving Quaker Valley as the tech integrator for over 3 years, and during my time here, I have helped to develop a personalized PD model and have become a certified Apple learning coach and a Keystone Technology Innovator Star. Enough about me, let's take a look at how students at QV are leveraging iPads and different tools to spark creativity. Website design, videography, and audio production allow students to be creative in how they illustrate their understanding of content. With our students, we leverage the power of 3 tools to make their great ideas come to life. The first being Canva. Students can design almost anything in a blink of an eye. Canva is a graphic design platform that allows students to create engaging presentations, functioning websites, and even videos like the one you're watching now. Designers can use templates or start building from scratch. It's a great way for students to learn graphic design and illustrate their understanding in a variety of creative ways. Next, iMovie. Students can create professional-looking videos using footage from their phones or cameras. Students create their own movies with video, images, text, and even voiceovers. The easy-to-use video editing software allows all students to turn raw footage into a cinematic masterpiece. Let's take a look at a student who starred and edited in a PSA on the dangers of distracted driving.
Every time we take our eyes off the road, even just for a second, we put ourselves and others at risk. Remember, distracted driving is never worth the risk of a ticket or the potential harm to yourself and others on the road.
Finally, GarageBand. Students can produce music compositions, record and edit audio tracks, and even produce interesting podcasts. Students begin by recording conversations or lyrics and then editing their audio. It's like having their own personal recording studio in the palm of their hand. Not only do students produce great songs and podcasts, they also value the design process. Listen to a student's perspective after presenting a podcast on the addictive properties of social media.
Doing the research too, I watched other TED Talks. We had to come up with questions and then do interviews in person and learn how to ask questions on the fly. Trying to cut what we didn't want out and then make everything flow so it still sounded like one interview.
With these tools, the possibilities are endless. We can create and explore and bring our ideas to life like never before. By using these tools, students can express their ideas and creativity in new and exciting ways, developing important skills such as critical thinking, communication, and even problem solving. Get started with your students today and see what amazing things they can start to create.
I love it. What a terrific way to kick off the Teacher Tech Summit. Distinguished guests, it's my honor to introduce to you the 3 teachers featured in those videos. First, please welcome Carla Neely of the Cleveland Metropolitan School District in Ohio, where she teaches science and computer science at the Warner Girls Leadership Academy. Please also welcome Lindy Hockenberry, a teacher and coach with Integrated Professional Development in Montana. And lastly, we welcome Kieran Vora, a technology integration specialist with the Quaker Valley School District in Pennsylvania. Welcome to all of you. And participants, we now also invite you to submit your questions via the chat functions on whichever platform you're viewing from today. Questions will appear on the screen and we'll take as many as we can in each masterclass. And as has been said before, the value of today's event really is in the interaction. These teachers are excited to address your questions. So let's get started. And I'm going to start maybe with an obvious question, but why is it so important for teachers to engage students in the act of creation to begin with? And Lindy, why don't you kick us off with a response? Why do students need to create?
Sure. I always go back to Bloom's taxonomy, and the very top of the new Bloom's taxonomy is create. So in order to understand, explain, all of that is kind of lumped into creation. So when you're having your students create, you're hitting your learning goals plus so much more.
Carla, how would you approach that question?
Similar to what she said, I use the depth of knowledge for my questioning and using verbs that I use, as far as the verbiage I use with my students. And it's important for students to spark creativity because that's the highest that they can go in explaining what they have learned. So after I've done all that I can as far as a classroom teacher, now you have to take all of that and put it together and show me what you learned. And because it looks so different based on every child, that's where the creativity comes from.
Absolutely. And Kieran, anything you'd add to that?
Sure. So for us at Creativity for Quaker Valley, a lot of times we want to make sure the kids are not only enjoying learning, but also practicing those soft skills. And so a lot of times we see them being able to communicate and be creative almost while also hiding the learning aspect, which is kind of cool because I'm working with a teacher right now and we can see that her kids are creating podcasts, and little do they know they're practicing reading skills, writing skills, and communication skills, but their skills are going to last forever.
That's great. And I see a question in the chat, and I've seen it come through a couple of times. Linda, you really focused in on assessment, and I think that really sparked people's interest because it's a question a lot of people have. How do you actually assess student creativity? And there's a teacher asking, how do you assess creativity to make it become a standardized assessment? What would you say to a question like that?
Well, I'm not necessarily assessing creativity. I'm still assessing the learning goal and keeping the focus on the learning goal, right? And a really great way to do that is to use a rubric. There's lots of different types of rubrics. I'm a huge fan of single point rubrics because it makes it super clear. Just put your learning goal, which could be your standard. And then you kind of have 2 columns on each side. One is, did they reach the learning goal? If not, where's room for improvement? And then the other side is, if they reach the learning goal, how did they reach it? And did they exceed that learning goal? And it makes it very clear and focuses on whether they're creating a meme, a playlist, a TikTok video. You're still focusing on that learning goal and assessing that.
I love that. There's a point that Frank has made in the comments as well. There's a movement to stop calling these soft skills because it makes them seem like it's a nice to have, or maybe they're unimportant. And some schools are starting to call them adaptive or transferable skills for graduation profiles. Have any of you seen that in your local context? That kind of shift in how these creativity skills that may have been framed up as soft skills in the past are being thought of differently?
I haven't necessarily heard the term soft skills being changed. I just kind of try to think of it wrapped up as critical thinking skills. That's kind of how I think of it. But I know it's different between every state, every country, across the entire world.
And I can speak to that too, because I was the one that did say soft skills. That's just something that I use all the time. I like that they're changing the term because I agree with that. It's such an important skill set for our young generation to understand and to use in the workforce. So every day we try to teach them those skills that they're going to need in the future.
And Carla, something you really emphasized in your lesson that struck me is leading with student interest. You know, when a topic connects to what students care about, we see engagement deepen and they're much more willing to spend time thinking and creating ideas in meaningful ways. And I'm curious if you have suggestions or strategies that teachers could use to uncover those interests that students bring with them into the classroom.
One of the things that I always do is at the beginning of the year in my science and computer science classes, my students complete a survey where they tell me what their interests are in the different areas in computer science and science. And then I also have on there, how do you like to work? Do you like to work by yourself? Do you only like to work in pairs? Do you only like to work in groups? Because that is really important. Because if you're not comfortable working with a group of people, I'm not going to place you with the group of people, because that may end up with you having a learning experience that you don't want. And then that could throw off your whole entire year. So I do that. So once I've done that, I always have the standard. I explain to them the standard is a requirement. That does not change. However, how do you want to learn that? So that gives the control to them. I may want to draw. I may want to create a computer code. I may want to use a robot. I may want to sing a song. However way you want to do it, remember, we have to go back to that standard. And that seems to work for me. They understand that I have the standard there that they have to do, but they have full control in how they want to create, how they've learned or how they've mastered that standard that I may have on the board.
That's great. Really setting them up for success and
right.
to be collaborative and creative in the best way possible in their context. Lindy or Kieran, anything you'd add to what Carla shared?
I was just going to say one way, and just kind of add to one of the previous questions, that exactly what Carla said, like keep that focus on the learning outcome, on the standard, but give them creativity to show what they learned and what they know in different ways. And one way that you can really help make sure that the focus stays on the learning when you're talking about making podcasts and videos and TikTok videos and on and on and on is having them script out or do a storyboard, just depending upon exactly what they're creating. It might look a little bit different, explaining that before they move into creating the video or the podcast or the meme or the, playlist, whatever that output may be.
And then if we're talking a lot about students, I'm curious, are there lessons you've learned from students along the way, from tapping their interests, like you both described, their interests in topics that matter to them and giving them that opportunity to explore and shape their own learning? Are there lessons or kind of aha moments from interactions with students that you think other teachers could benefit from?
Don't underestimate them. Don't ever underestimate them. Don't ever say they're too young. I don't think my kids can do that. When you open up and give kids choice to choose what they want to create, you're going to see amazing things.
I agree with that. And also, I would like to say that it's important for teachers to not be afraid to learn with them. It's okay if it's new for you as well. Especially me being a computer science teacher, I have learned quite a few different type of robotic programs with my students. And we had fun because sometimes students think that teachers know everything and we don't. So it's nice to, really break that mold to show them that we're still learners in progress as well.
And building on that as well, choice is definitely the key, I think, to the creativity side for the students. We're starting to see a lot of teachers open up and take a look at the standard or whatever activity it is and allow the kids to choose. And I think that's just as powerful as the relevant side of it. Watching a kid say, oh, I can use that app, and then see their smile is great to see as well.
That's great, Kieran. And I see it called out in the chat as well, that comment from Carla. The standard may be a requirement, but the question that students can come in and really shape is how do you want to learn that? And Carolina making the point, just agreeing, I think, with all of you, of trust the students and really let them play a central role in the classroom. It's hard to believe, but we are getting close to time for this first masterclass. There's so much to consider here. For me, a couple of the big takeaways, and again, I think, Carla, you put it so well in your video, that reading, writing, critical thinking really come to life when students have opportunities to engage with real world content and topics they care about. Lindy and Kieran, as you hit on as well, when that combines with students having opportunities to share their learning and their creativity with real world audiences and using powerful, accessible design tools, we really create those kinds of powerful learning experiences that we all strive to engage students in. So a huge thank you to all of you. So much inspiration. I look forward to continuing to learn from all of you and hearing more from our next masterclass. Eric, back to you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Lisa. And a big thank you to Carla, Lindy, and Kieran for sharing your insight and kicking us off today. I'm just so inspired by the work that you all are leading in your respective communities. And I can't wait to hear from other teachers. I know that I've been following the comments in the comment section, following your questions, loving the discussion. Let's keep it going. It is now my honor to introduce the facilitator of our next masterclass, Serving the Whole Child. Jessica Jackson is the Director of Professional Learning for the Learner Variability Project, which you'll hear more about later today at Digital Promise. She's a former elementary school teacher and principal who remains passionate about the needs of the whole child. Welcome, Jessica. Take it away.
Thanks, Eric. What an honor it is to facilitate the discussion around this important topic and to introduce you to these dynamic and caring educators. Post-pandemic, a focus on serving the needs of the whole child is as urgent as ever. Teachers understand that the best learning occurs when a child feels safe, valued, and heard. Today, we'll take a deeper look into how technologies can increase a sense of belonging and further our individual and collective whole child efforts. Let's begin with our teacher videos.
Hello there, my name is Breon Linton, and I'm a school counselor at Chillersburg Elementary School. Here's just a little bit of background knowledge about me. This is my husband, my 2 children, and my favorite farm animal, Pierce, on our generational farm. I'm actually entering my 10th year in education. For the first 8 years, I was a 1st and 2nd grade teacher. In the last year and a half, I've been in the counseling setting. I work with all students to encourage academic and social emotional success with whole group and small group setting. I'm a 504 and EL coordinator at our school, which brings me today why I am going to be presenting the website Everfi. I currently have a project called the Compassion Project through Everfi, and the goal is to introduce social emotional learning competencies to teach students how to practice compassion and empathy, identify emotion, and exercise a growth mindset. The main thing is it is a free resource. It is free to all schools, classrooms, teachers, etc. All you need to do is register at everfi.com/register. And now the first thing that I want to share with you is to let you see kind of what my dashboard looked like on the Compassion Project. And it shows, the first thing I'm showing you is the Compassion Project Lower Elementary. Again, you can use many different things, but it kind of goes along with what standards it's going to show. The next thing is the standards and how many lessons and how long it's going to be each, where in this case, it's good for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade. 3 lessons, 20 minutes each. We can do that, especially if our children show a need. This is exactly what it looks like from the student side, which I enjoy because it is very student friendly, very engaging to students. It has the cartoon. The next part is that it shows a check mark if the student takes the lesson and passes the lesson. There's a check. But if the student takes the lesson and doesn't pass the lesson and needs more information or needs to revisit it, it tells you in a grade book, and it tells the student that maybe we need to retake this quiz, revisit this standard. It also has a pre-quiz, so the students can kind of talk about and kind of have information of background information of what they think it means. Then during the actual lesson, it shows a video. It's a very quick, to the point, 2 to 3 minute video that every step is very well thought out. And then afterwards, there's reflection questions where you really can reflect on what happened in the video. They also have intros where you can talk about other people's feelings and things like that. And I really like the vision board where you can really click on different people so they can actually hear what their thought process is. I use Everfi in this way, but you can use it in many different ways. They have different domains, including financial education, social emotional health, and much more. Thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the school year.
Hello, my name is Danielle Horn. I'm a 6th grade teacher from Fallbrook Union Elementary School District. I teach 93 students, and I'm a social studies and science teacher. And I've been teaching for 3 years and using Thrively for 2 to support my students. Thrively is a strength-based teaching platform, meaning it focuses on each child's unique abilities. It supports students' social, emotional well-being and helps us as teachers to truly know our students. In addition, Thrively is a tool to help students with career investigation and discovering new interests. One of my favorite parts of Thrively is the well-being check-in. This check-in has allowed me to learn about my students and what's going on in their lives. Many students are hesitant to talk to their teacher in person. This well-being check-in gives them an opportunity to share their thoughts. With this, I'm able to identify when they're struggling or having a bad day, and this allows me to be a bit gentler or, if needed, connect them to our school counselor. This tool, in my mind, has allowed me to help a lot of my students. Just this month, I had a student bring to my attention that they are self-harming. This student is now able to get additional support because she was brave enough to share, and Thrively provided a platform to do so. One of my favorite stories to show just how big Thrively's impact is comes from a past student of mine, now a 7th grader. This student found her value from being the funny girl. She didn't feel like she could be much more than that. Through our check-ins, we were able to connect and build a foundation of trust. To this day, she still sends me well-being check-ins. She's now able to see she's so much more than just the funny girl. To her, I'm a teacher who cares. To me, she's a constant reminder of why I'm a teacher and why I use Thrively. Apart from using Thrively check-ins, I use this platform to identify students' talents and interests. Students take an assessment that highlights each individual's strengths. As prior middle schoolers ourselves, I think we can all remember the days of social anxiety, puberty, and lots of self-doubt. Thrively brings to light each student's unique abilities. This might include characteristics like memory, drive, athleticism, compassion, and so many more. Providing students a great way to focus on their own individual gifts. And at this age, I believe they need that reminder. As teachers, it can be hard to find the time to personally check in with each of our students. We have so many responsibilities and things to cover that sometimes lending a listening ear can even be a struggle. Thrively offers a unique way to let our students share and for us to respond. One of the best parts is it doesn't take too much time, a warm-up, an activity for early finishers, even a mini lesson. It can allow you to get more insight into their daily struggles and their wins. It can encourage them to think about their future and even provide career options. In short, Thrively is a platform focusing on each individual student. It highlights not only their strengths, but the importance of their well-being. I believe this is a wonderful platform for teachers to use in building relationships with students and a foundation of trust. Our mission as teachers is to recognize each child for their individuality. Thrively is a reminder to our students that they are unique and valued for who they are.
Hi, I'm Lauren Benner from Midlothian ISD, and I'm the Elementary Reading and Language Arts Coordinator for the district. I'm also a certified reading specialist and a former campus instructional coach and a former kindergarten and 2nd grade teacher. I'm here today to tell you more about Amira Learning, why they believe every child deserves the chance to be a better reader, and so do I. Amira is able to listen to students read aloud. It continuously identifies the skills gaps that students have and delivers personalized tutoring. Amira listens to the student read, creates an audio recording of the running record, and provides reports and metrics for teachers and parents. In Midlothian ISD, we understand how vital literacy skills are to support all learning and to use evidence-based methods to ensure that all students succeed and thrive in this area. One of the reasons why I use Amira is because it is grounded in the reading rope and the science of teaching reading. It allows students to have guided practice using decodable text, and it explicitly and systematically instructs in phonics and phonological awareness. Teachers access Amira because it saves time, several hours of time each school year by automating the oral reading fluency assessment, running records, and the dyslexia screener. The assessment is a digital version of the Texas Primary Reading Inventory Assessment, and the reports are very teacher-friendly and they can pinpoint specific skills that students need support with. Students access Amira through our SIS class link, and they go to the Ed HMH dashboard. Students in K2 use iPads, and students in 3rd through 5th grade use Chromebooks. Amira uses AI to generate the right reading interventions at the right time. By helping a student at the moment of the unproductive struggle, Amira helps create motivated and masterful readers. Amira is a reading buddy for our students who is patient and who never judges. Working with Amira is an embarrassment-free zone and provides new reading adventures every session. Students are engaged. Amira practice gives students feedback at the phoneme, syllable, word, sentence, and even passage level. Students using Amira often ask, "Can I read another story? I'm getting better." In this way, Amira helps to build confidence, and Amira is able to serve the whole child. Why I love Amira is, as you can see, Amira assesses many components of reading, and this saves teachers weeks of classroom time over the course of the school year. Teachers can review and observe student proficiency at a time that's convenient for them by listening to the recordings. And all students have a one-on-one tutor at their fingertips. As a student reads aloud, Amira listens for mistakes, and based on the student's reading level and the words being read, Amira is able to select from a toolkit of over 25 micro-interventions. This builds missing skills and helps accelerate growth. This makes Amira unique from all other reading programs that we use, and this is why I love Amira.
Thank you. Those were all so powerful and such inspiring examples and tools. And so I'm excited to introduce our educators. So let's get to it. Please join me in welcoming Lauren Benner, the Elementary English Arts Coordinator with Midlothian Independent School District in Texas, and also Danielle Horning, a Science and Social Studies teacher at Fallbrook Elementary School in the Fallbrook Union in the District of San Diego County. And we hope that Breon Linton will be able to join us. I think she's having a little technical difficulty, so if we're able to add her in later, we will. But we're going to get started here. And so thank you so much for sharing those videos and the examples. I'd love to hear, our topic is whole child. And so I'd love to hear, what does whole child mean to you? Like when you think about that, what are some of the things that come to mind that you're really considering in your practice?
I can go first.
Yeah, go ahead, Daniel.
From my own experience, I think knowing the whole child is having an understanding of what they need. And I think knowing their interests, knowing what's going on in their life, you're really understanding them as a person, because that's what they are. They're not these little tiny kids that are just sponges. They have their own interests and abilities, and they're excited to share them. So I think having an understanding of them as a whole person is important.
I agree with Danielle. And then for me, just with the reading background, building student confidence and their motivation and feeling like they can become a good reader helps us when we're doing our reading instruction. So it's not just about the skills, it's really about building their confidence so that they feel like they are able to read.
Yeah. And I really appreciated, so I wasn't familiar with either of the tools you shared, and I thought that those were both really interesting. And I think when I think about whole child practices, a lot of it is, I think about, like getting to know your students and building relationships with them, but I don't always think about technology. So what are, how do you think technology can enhance the way we're able to meet students' needs over, maybe more traditional practices and things like that?
I think just saving teachers time. Of course, there's so much power in having those one-on-one conversations with students, but like many teachers, we serve a lot of students, and so having that immediate access to get feedback from students, or for them to get feedback from us in like an instant way versus having to build the time, I think technology can serve the teacher in that way.
And I can agree with that. It's definitely a time saver, and teachers, I mean, we have so much going on in our day to day. And, with Thrively, I feel like sixth graders, that's what I teach, they're not as likely to come up and talk to me about their problems in person because they're kind of like, I don't want to have a conversation with you, just out of embarrassment. And, they're so focused on their peers, but it gives them an outlet. So with my student I mentioned in the video, it gave her an outlet to share that she was self-harming. And, we talked about it later, but it was kind of, she set the tone and was able to share that through technology without having some kind of secret conversation with me. It made her more comfortable and allows them to open up, I think, more than a conversation at times.
Yeah, that was definitely something that stood out to me in your video, is that, students are maybe more comfortable communicating through technology platforms than in person. And I think that was really powerful. And then agree that it can totally save time. And in both of your, examples, I think that really came through. Something that I think about with whole child practices is really helping students through the productive struggle, right, of learning. And that's where the real learning happens. You want it to be, hard enough that they're feeling challenged, but not so hard that they give up. And there's so many things that can happen in that productive struggle piece. So, maybe share a little bit about how you support students through productive struggle, or other, practices or tools that you use for that.
So for me at the elementary level, particularly with reading, that's one of the reasons why we love Amira so much, is because it's a one-on-one tutor with the kids. And so teachers typically will pull small group and work with students on reading, but they don't have the time daily to do one-on-one tutoring with every student that they have, so that they can really, know what words they're struggling with, what skills they need. And so for us, Amira has been a game changer in that way, because it is a tutor, and it's based on their struggle. So Amira listens to when a child reads a word incorrectly and provides, with using AI, it provides that one-on-one tutoring for the kids. So they're getting that productive struggle every single day, when previously it was kind of based on whenever the teacher had time. And so we get more opportunities for kids to have that learning opportunity and growth through using technology.
Yeah, I thought that was such an interesting use of AI, and that they're getting that like feedback and corrective immediate, right? And so I think that that's such an important part of helping students through that productive struggle. Thank you. Danielle, anything you'd like to add?
Just with, I think, meeting their basic needs. With Thrively, it kind of gives me insight into each of them. If they're having a rough day, it really helps me kind of break down what's going on. And I mean, it's funny doing it this year. My students are so comfortable with it. So now they're like, Ms. Horning, I added a new well-being check-in, so you should check that. So they'll like give me heads up, like, I really want to talk to you about something, and it's just a way to help them in their day-to-day and overall struggles. And have a lot of students that have things going on at home or in the classroom, and kind of having an awareness helps me kind of gear support towards each individual.
So I'm seeing some comments and questions about the different platforms that you both shared. I was wondering if you could say a little more about like how easy is it to get started with those tools, or were there anything you did specifically that kind of helped you really become more comfortable with your tools?
So for us, of course, we have an amazing technology department, and they rostered all of our students using our single sign-on system. So the teachers didn't have to set up anything on that end. But as far as when the students are able to do it, we just kind of gave them a little background knowledge on what to expect, that Amira was going to listen to them read, and that they would wear a microphone and read aloud to her, and that their teachers could listen to their reports and listen back to their reading. And then we've done some training as far as the teachers reading the reports, but honestly, we were able to use Amira starting on the first day of school.
Oh, that's awesome.
For myself, we've had some awesome trainings. And just, I think from the start, it was, let's see what an impact this can have. And automatically I was seeing with the well-being check-ins, they're very easy. The kids log in and they have a little heart that says well-being. So they all know to go there. And it kind of just immediately showed the impact. So I felt like the trainings, they helped me kind of know the layout of Thrively, and it was very easy. It's very aesthetically pleasing. And the trainings, even if you go on Thrively, they have so many resources to look into the platform. So and you have your live chat too, which makes it awesome.
Yeah. So thinking about, like, you mentioned that, like, Amira follows the reading rope, right? And so it's using that science of reading and things like that. What are some things that you look for, especially kind of with that whole child in mind, when you're selecting technology tools? Like, what are some things that you really look for and consider with that?
For us, we always want to make sure that we're building confidence in students and building confident readers. A lot of kids, don't like to read aloud. They get embarrassed. Old techniques like popcorn reading and things like that would, cause some anxiety for kids. And so using this technology allows us to have every child read aloud without that embarrassment that we may have previously had using some old practices. And so in that way, we're building confidence in students as readers, and also for the teacher, as far as being able to listen back to that. They can listen for specific things. If students have a learning disability or things where they just are really hesitant to provide that to the whole class, Amira allows us to have more opportunities to listen to students read while still building their confidence and that they're growing as learners.
Danielle, anything you look for?
With looking at different resources, I think looking at kind of whether they're going to be supporting them in adding to their own value, making sure it's not just that they're learning from it, but it's building their confidence. I have a lot of students that are in counseling and have a lot of things that they're struggling with outside of the classroom. So I think having resources that highlight them, like Thrively does, it's constantly saying, like, these are your strengths, like, what are your interests? It's very guided towards them, and looking at resources that, and for middle school especially, that are showing them, like, you're capable and you have this value, is so great for them. But yeah, with these resources that just kind of guide them to knowing themselves and knowing their own strengths is very important to me.
Yeah, I think that, both of your examples really highlight in your comments, the confidence, adding value, and strengths. And I think that's hugely important. We talk about that often and at the Learner Variability Project, as just the importance of strength-based teaching. And I think both of these tools do that. And I wonder if there are any other just examples or ways that you bring kind of strength-based approach into your work, maybe outside of this tool, or kind of that you would be willing to share, or ways that people might kind of start thinking about that in their classes tomorrow.
I can't think of a specific tool, but I think just having that mindset as an educator about that all children can be successful, and that we give them those opportunities to show that. So whether that be a tech tool, a conversation, some praise in the classroom, just building that confidence in students, I think educators have a lot of power in that.
Absolutely. And I see Brianne finally joined us.
I am too. I'm so sorry for the delay. Thank y'all so much for being patient.
Oh, no. So we are just continuing the conversation. We're kind of talking about a strength-based approach and what are some ways that that kind of either shows up in the platform you shared, or how you bring that into your classroom in other ways that teachers could try tomorrow.
In the situation with EverFi, I definitely think that it's strength-based and that it's easy. It's something that you can do with, you can plan it within an afternoon. You can plan it within your 30 minutes of, your break. It's something that you can quickly put out there for your students. And I like it personally because it's a tool that doesn't have so many options that you lose it as an educator. Does that make sense? When we have a tool that has so many different things that you can do with it, but you aren't able to do all those things because you can only give so much in an 8-hour day. And I definitely think that's a strength of EverFi, is that it's something that you can easily plan, easily put out there.
Thanks, Brianne. Danielle, anything you want to add or share?
I can agree with you. Just that, with Thrively 2, it's very easy. Like my students this morning did a playlist from Thrively and it was all on hope. So, having these little playlists and their quick journals that they can write, it's an easy warm up to do, but it's really highlighting their strengths. And throughout the playlist, it'll go back to, okay, look at your strength profile. What are your strengths and how do you bring them into your day to day? How can you use it in this situation, in this scenario? So it's really teaching them like, okay, you have these 7 strengths. How can you use them as a person? So I think it really makes them focus on their strengths, their own capabilities.
I think that's so important. And I love, focusing on students' strengths is such a great way to kind of embrace whole child learning. And I think connecting what you're doing on your respective tools to other parts of the day, the lesson, like bringing that into the classroom in other ways is so important, so that really enhances what they're getting out of those tools and making those connections. I have really enjoyed this conversation, Brianne. I'm so glad you were able to join us, Lauren and Danielle. This was really wonderful and insightful. I cannot believe that we are out of time, but there is just so much to think about and consider. And my 2 biggest takeaways, kind of based on what we've talked about and shared, is that both of these tools are really able to meet students where they are and give them kind of some immediate touch points in ways that save teachers time and then really build students' confidence and strengths. And so I think these are all amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And I'm going to turn it back over to Eric.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Jessica, for your thoughtful facilitation. Thank you to Danielle and Lauren and Brianne. We have all been there when our technology doesn't work like we want it to, and it's an excellent example of the challenges that our teachers face in the classroom with technology, but also an excellent opportunity and illustration of resilience as you came on with such grace there at the end to share with us a little bit more about EverFi. Thank you all so much for the work that you are doing to lead social emotional impacts in your respective communities. Your students are truly fortunate to have you in their lives. And I just want to say a big shout out to our audience. You continue to add really thoughtful questions in the comments from all of the different platforms that you're watching from. And I know we have a number of people who just recently have joined us. So if you have not had the opportunity to say where you're joining us from, we encourage you to put that in the chat. I know that we have people from all over the world who are joining us today, and so many from the United States. We have over 1,500 registrants for today's event, and we know that thousands more will be watching it via video. So thanks so much for joining us from all of the amazing places that you're joining us. All right. We are going to transition now to our next masterclass. It is now my honor to introduce you to Digital Promise's Director of Adult Learning, Dr. Jacole LeGrand-Dunn. She is a former teacher and school site leader who understands firsthand the promise of and challenges with competency-based learning and assessment. Jacole, welcome to the Teacher Tech Summit virtual stage. It's a pleasure to have you. Take it away.
Hi, Eric. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you all for having me. I'm very excited to be here. As Eric alluded to, efforts to release student learning from the grip of one-size-fits-all and drill and kill instruction are challenged by the effort and expertise required to truly design learning around the unique needs of individual students. Competency-based efforts hold great promise, but realizing that promise requires a great deal of time and energy. Those are two resources that we all know are in short supply in many of our schools. Today, we are fortunate to be joined by 3 educators who have implemented unique digital tools to create the efficiencies necessary to finally achieve the promise of competency-based learning and assessment. Let's take a look at their stories.
Hi, my name's Renee Dawson. I'm a special education teacher and technology specialist at Long Middle School in Atlanta, Georgia. Understanding the needs of the whole child have always been important to teachers, but those needs were magnified after the pandemic. Last year, I discovered this free tool from Digital Promise that lets you identify the factors impacting your learners and then see research-based strategies that could be used to address those factors. Let's take a look at this tool so you can see how impactful it can be for you and your students. First, create a free account at lvp.digitalpromiseglobal.org. Once you've created your free account and logged in, go to Tools and Workspaces and My Workspaces. From here, click on Make a New Workspace, give it a title, click Submit, and it'll take you to the Learner Model Factor page to select the learner model for the student you're looking at with the Learner Variability Navigator. Let's say we're looking at a student that's struggling in literacy and that's in 5th grade. We would select literacy 4 through 6 to see the factors impacting that student. As you navigate through the factors related to each other will highlight. That's pretty cool to me. You can choose your factors from here, or I like to go to the strategies page and pick my factors from there. So let's say that our student has adverse experiences in literacy. They come from a low socioeconomic status. Sometimes they lack motivation. They also struggle with attention and lack background knowledge in literacy. This will give me 9 strategies that they recommend for my student. Let's say I want to take a closer look at multimodal instruction. When I click on multimodal instruction, it takes me to the strategy overview page. It'll give me an example video of the strategy being used. It'll also give me additional examples, professional development, and research to back up the strategy. It also tells me what other factors are supported by this strategy. If I like that strategy, all I have to do to add it to my workspace is click the plus sign. So I'm going to add a couple strategies to my workspace. Then I can go back in and look at my workspace. My factors and strategies are listed on my workspace. I can also add a section to add more strategies. I can add notes and reflection here. This is the Learner Variability Navigator. It's a wonderful tool for teachers to use, but you can also help your students understand their own learner variability with this tool or with the many lessons provided by the Learner Variability Project. Please explore the Learner Variability Navigator to learn more about your students and find research-based strategies to help address the factors that are impacting their learning. Enjoy! Bye!
Hi guys, I'm going to be talking to all of you lab science teachers out there about my absolute favorite resource that I've ever used for teaching lab sciences. It's called Pivot Interactives, and I'd like you to take a look at some of the really cool things that it does and how it's made my life so much easier this year. Okay, so here we've got my personal library. Now these are a collection of activities that I've gathered. Now I teach AP Bio, and so a lot of these activities are going to be specific to that subject. But they've got a ton of different subjects that you can end up looking at: astronomy, biology, chemistry, earth and space science, environmental science, physics, you name it, it's here. Now, when you actually are looking at these particular activities, it's interesting to note that not only are they good to illustrate these concepts, but they're also good because ultimately they're going to be showing, so this is an activity called Sims Intro to Cells, but they're going to be showing pictures and images and videos of things that are much, much better detailed than anything students are going to be able to generate by themselves. Now, what I'm not saying about this is I'm not saying that this is a total replacement of hands-on activities. This is a supplement. You can also end up having previews of labs that you would want to use in class. So this would be gel electrophoresis. You can load it, you can clear it. And then what makes it even better when we're talking about assessment is students have to then select answers for multiple choice questions that allow them to get immediate feedback. Because one of the biggest problems we have whenever we're teaching labs is how do you actually give feedback to students in the moment? There's one of you, 30 of them. So Pivot allows for not just them to get that immediate feedback, it also provides for background information for them to be able to answer additional questions, and it even has open answers for them to write in as well.
There's not a lot of setup to it, which I think like one of the worst parts about lab is setting up and then taking everything down. I'm really glad that my class uses Pivot.
In conclusion, it is my favorite lab resource and a great assistance for any teacher that needs a little bit of help on those days that you just don't think that you can handle pulling off labs for 5 sections of 30 students at a time. Good luck with everything. I wish you well.
Hi, my name is Allison Stone, and I am a high school biology and human anatomy and physiology teacher in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. I'm here to talk to you today about how Pear Deck has made me better at formative assessment in my classroom. I began using Pear Deck during the pandemic to get students to participate, even if they didn't want to turn their cameras on during virtual classes. I continue to use Pear Deck for a number of reasons. One of them is because it allows for equitable participation. Students are able to participate in a question. They can give their complete answer. I can scroll through and make sure that all students have completed their answer before we move on. This is better than me just calling on random students in the classroom where I'm only getting a sample of 2 or 3 students. I can now see the answers of all of my students. Additionally, it's better than mini whiteboards because even with mini whiteboards, I may not catch that a student hasn't fully completed the question. So Pear Deck gives me that opportunity to give students the wait time that they need. Pear Deck is also great because I can share student responses and they're totally anonymous. So again, if I were using mini whiteboards in the class and a student made a mistake, everyone would know which student made that mistake. In Pear Deck, I don't have to worry about that. I can share the results with the whole class. It doesn't show the students' names. And if there is a student who maybe didn't know the answer to a question and wrote a question mark, we're not all looking at that person, right? They're able to keep their anonymity. And for students who are in high school and middle school, that's so important for their own participation and feeling safe in class. I love Pear Deck because it gives me very accurate formative assessment data. So if I were using mini whiteboards in a class, I might not be able to look at every single student's mini whiteboard. Same thing, if I were sampling answers, I may only get 1 or 2 student answers if I were just calling on students in class. But when I use Pear Deck, I can look at every single student answer. Even if I don't have time in the moment, I can go back and look and see what students have answered when I'm done with the lesson. And that way I can check in on the students who are still struggling. Another great feature of Pear Deck is it allows me to give personalized feedback. I can assign a Pear Deck as an exit ticket, and it might not be a whole class activity. Maybe students are working on it in a self-paced manner, but I can always go back through and then give personalized feedback to those students. I then can share the link for the Pear Deck that we did the previous day, and students can go in and see what their feedback was. This is great for targeted improvement. Lastly, I use Pear Deck for social emotional wellness check-ins, and this is a great way of also assessing where students are at the beginning of class. So I might give them a fun meme like this and then ask them to move their icon to where they're feeling that day. This gives me a really good feeling for the whole class of where we are and what students' capabilities are going to be that day. I hope you'll consider adding Pear Deck to your teaching repertoire. I think it's a great way to get student data and then also respond and provide feedback to students in real time.
Wow, such great information and resources and great insight around those resources. I'm really anxious to jump in and have some more conversation around those. So without further ado, distinguished guests, please join me in welcoming to the Teacher Tech Summit stage, Renee Dawson, the Education Technology Specialist at the Crawford W. Long Middle School in the Atlanta, Georgia Public School System. We also welcome Christy Sims, the AP Biology teacher at Arizona College Prep High School and the Chandler Unified School District. And finally, we'd like to welcome Allison Stone, a teacher of human anatomy and physiology and biology at Central Bucks High School in West Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Educators, welcome, and thank you so much for sharing your stories with us. Attendees, I noticed that while the videos were going on, there were some great questions that were coming through. I want to encourage you to keep those questions coming. We may have some time to address a few of those as you all are as we engage in today's conversation. But I want to, and some of them I think have already been addressed in the chat, so be sure to go through and scroll because I think some of your questions are being answered there, but hopefully we'll get to some more of those. But I want to start us off with a question to our incredible panel. So my first question for you is, why is getting competency-based learning and assessment such a challenge? And how can tech help us address those challenges? Ms. Dawson, Renee, would you like to start us off?
Sure, I'd love to.
Okay.
In my school, the biggest issues we face with the curriculum and going into assessments, anything boxed we get from a company, is equity and diversity. It doesn't always apply to our students. They don't always have the background knowledge to access the curriculum, which hurts them when it comes to the competency-based assessments because they don't have what they need before they enter those classrooms to really be successful. So we look at using technology and different tech tools to level the playing field for them. How can we use VR to show them the background knowledge that they're missing from this social studies assignment? How can we use an AR app to get them to actually understand what it looks like when you balance something on a scale? So technology has really opened doors for our students and leveled the playing field for them to be successful with any curriculum that and competency-based assessment they're given.
I'd like to jump in too, because I think, and I addressed this a little bit in the video that just was shown too, that in a lab-based situation, you can't always know if a student is understanding what's happening in the moment. And I would think this would also be an issue, obviously, if you're dealing with any kind of calculations or anything where if you normally would have a worksheet that the student would be working on, you then have to collect them, you then have to grade them. They're not getting feedback immediately. They're not even getting feedback that day. So by having tech help us with that in whatever form, when students get that kind of immediate feedback, multiple times they'll come up with their computer and say, I don't understand why it won't let me go any further than this. And I'll say, because you're doing your calculations wrong. And so this allows for that kind of immediate feedback, which I think is essential for any kind of competency in assessing them. So if you're doing it after the fact, then it's just got more limited usefulness in general.
I would say it's challenging for teachers to do competence-based learning and assessment because students are in so many different places at different times. So I just take a minute to talk about a platform or a model that I use called the Modern Classroom Project. And Modern Classroom Project, we use pre-recorded blended videos, and students are self-paced because of the videos, because I don't lecture anymore. So students can move through their own pace. And then we also use mastery checks. So it's mastery-based learning. So students can take my mastery checks after each little small chunk of learning. They take the mastery check again and again and again. And that's done through Canvas. So I have that digital platform that I'm using. And it allows some students who are ready to move on and do more like aspire to do activities where they're doing maybe a lab that the rest of the students aren't ready for, but I do have some students who are ready. And then other students who are struggling with content,
I can sit with small groups and work with those students and make sure that they've reached that competency piece. And then Pear Deck helps to kind of bring us all together and make sure we're all on the same page.
Awesome. That's some great insight. One of the questions that I've seen come up a couple of times is about just accessibility and whether there's a cost associated with these resources. Could you all talk to us a little bit about each of those with Pear Deck, with Pivot, and with the LVP?
I can start with LVP. With the Learner Variability Project, it is a free tool through Digital Promise. It does meet all ADA and UDL required guidelines for technology as well, so it is accessible. It's wonderful for teachers to use, but I've been working lately with my students assessing their own learner variability in middle school, and that's been really eye-opening and wonderful for them.
Pear Deck has a free version, but my district, I'm lucky enough that my district does pay for the full version. One thing I like about Pear Deck, even if you're using the free version, if you use Google Slides or PowerPoint, it integrates with both of those platforms, which is really nice.
And for Pivot Interactives, you get a 30-day free trial that you can actually look through and just see all of the different labs that they have available to see if it's something that would fit your curriculum. You can even establish classes at that time. But after that point, they do charge $5 per student, which is something that I am very fortunate that my site pays for our entire department to be able to use.
Excellent, excellent. So we see that there's some variability there in terms of access and in terms of being able to expand on, kind of like we do with apps. If you want to get the full range of what it's able to do, sometimes you may have to pay a little bit more, but that's great to know. One of the things, I've had some experience with each of the interfaces that you all are talking about. Oh, well, wait, there's a question coming in here. Can you explain how you're using LVP with students?
Yes, definitely.
About it, but yeah, please.
So one of the great things that's available with the LVP project are some units of study for elementary and middle school. So right now I'm in a middle school. I actually wrote the unit of study for middle school, so I'm biased to say that it's wonderful, but they do look at understanding what learner variability is. They create a glyph of themselves, of things they prefer to help them understand that variability. And then it's really cool to have the whole class look at all their glyphs and see how different everybody is. Then I kind of break down the main categories of the navigator, and we talk through them, and we watch videos and do interactive activities and reflections. So breaking down just each category and talking about the factors within that category have been helpful. And at the end, I have them go through and assess themselves. And then we meet and talk about what they picked, and we look through the strategies and see which strategies they feel would be most helpful. And I start to discuss those strategies with their teachers. I do PD training on those strategies or coaching for the teachers to make sure that the strategies get integrated into the classroom.
Awesome opportunities. Two things that I was going to share in the question I had before. Two things that I have found with these, and I was hoping that maybe you all might be able to expound on this a little bit more, is one, students' ability to take ownership of the learning through these platforms, which I just think is so incredibly important because they feel like they can guide some of this. So if you would talk a little bit about that in your own experience. And then also, sometimes we have, I'm a former post-secondary teacher and secondary teacher. And so sometimes I would find where students were not most often, I guess, ready to, are able to, are willing, I should say, to engage in some things in the live setting, right, in class. And I would find very often that sometimes those same students utilizing platforms like these or similar were more apt to engage. And I would see that they would be, very engaged. And I was wondering if you all had similar experiences.
So one of the, I mentioned in my video that I started using Pear Deck during the pandemic. And one of the things, the pandemic was horrible. And it was something that I want to take away from my memory. But one of the things that came out of it was with Pear Deck, all of a sudden I was hearing every student's voice. And it just dawned on me, like, I hate doing cold call because I think it makes students feel really uncomfortable. But then I was missing so many voices. And Pear Deck opened that up for me. So now I hear every student's voice. And we don't use it all the time, But I think it is so worthwhile to, wrap that in and hear their voices in that way, that where they can be safe, but they can still participate in class.
And can I ask, when you're asking about ownership, do you mean from a teacher perspective or do you mean from a student perspective?
I mean, from a student's perspective. So like students feeling like this is something that I need additional help with, or I want to engage with this a little bit more. And it may not be something that you've required of them, but they have access to and can, push themselves forward.
It's an interesting question because in dealing with, and of course, this is very, very subject specific because it is lab-based activities. So coming from that perspective, I would say the ownership comes from the selection that students are given. So whereas in a lab situation where they're having to perform labs in class, I'm limited to the amount of materials that I can provide for them. There's usually only one lab. Like if we are going to change the independent variable, there's usually only one way to do that because I have to supply materials for 150 students in that day. So there's a limitation there. What is amazing about Pivot is that students have to select what their variable is in order to be able to generate the data that they have to collect. So if it's something like mitosis or something like that, they've got 5 different things that they can apply to those root tips in order to see the effect that they have. And so the ownership is going to come from being able to select which variable they wish to test, and then having a digitally based record of each of those particular variables, which from a digital perspective is just amazing because it gives my students more opportunities to actually engage in labs than what I could even supply them with in a class period. So in that way, I think it gives them ownership.
And with students with the Learner Variability Navigator, understanding their own learner variability definitely takes ownership to a new level for them because they're faced with areas that they need to grow in order to be more successful in the classroom. And some areas most of them are not their fault. It's just the way they are or the way that situations are. So it creates a closer relationship with our teachers and students, I think, because the students start to own where they need to grow, and they rely on the teacher for that, and they rely on those strategies that we share with them, and they become more vocal about their areas of need. Like, hey, I don't understand this because I don't have the background knowledge. This strategy, I know that it'll help me. Can we do this in class maybe? And it just gives them a great way to start communicating with their teachers. It's a wonderful SEL tool that we use as well during our time. So there's just so many ways to help students own their own learning with the Learner Variability Navigator.
And I see that we have, thank you all so much for sharing those insights. I see we have a question here. Someone needed us to share those 3 platforms again. So we have the Learner Variability platform, and then we have Pear Deck, and then we also have Pivot. All right. And so my next question for you is, I see there's a lot of excitement in the chat, and I imagine in my head, I envision people running after this masterclass to go, well, after they get through all the others today, but going and checking out these resources. And so I want us to make sure, or to try to provide them with the best on-ramp for utilizing these resources. So this next question is about any challenges that you had that you might be able to name at the beginning for individuals, so that maybe they have some insight in, oh, this is how I navigate that, or anything that you any insights that you think may help them to have a solid on-ramp for these resources.
There are great videos and instructions on the Learner Variability platform itself, so people can start there with the video. There's also some on YouTube if they search it, and then I always recommend completing a workspace on yourself first. It's humbling, definitely, but eye-opening, and it lets you kind of see, okay, like this is me. This is what I struggle with. This is where I'm successful, and this is what I need to start focusing on. And it lets you see what strategies that help you learn, and that might be helpful to share with your professional development team at school, with your leadership in your evaluation meetings. You advocate for yourself as well. You're a learner in the building just like everybody else. So I definitely walk through the learner variability, play with all the areas on there, and just have fun with it.
I think for Pivot Interactives, it's very, very user friendly. So it's just literally a matter of going to the website, signing up for a free trial. Sorry about that. I am in school, but signing up for it. And then you've got 30 days to just kind of explore their library. You just make a copy of it. What's amazing about it is it does allow you to edit it in any way. You can delete any question, any portion of any of the labs. You can specify things. And so having that free trial really allows for people to determine, science teachers to determine how easy is it. And they've also got a lot of labs that are already scaffolded, that are listed as being scaffolded. So it can work from middle school all the way through college.
And I would also say what Renee said about Pear Deck is try it yourself first, like try it on yourself first. One thing that I found really helpful with Pear Deck is if you can have the access to 2 screens, it's really helpful to see what the students are seeing. And then also you have your own screen where you can scroll through and see where students are. But having 2 screens is really helpful with that particular piece of technology.
That is really, really great insight. I want to thank you all so much. I know this has been, you've taken time out of your day. And as we can see, you are clearly in the work. We hear bells going off in the background in school. No, don't apologize at all. Do not apologize for doing the work that we're here to honor and celebrate and grow in today. So absolutely so grateful to each of you. I feel like there's so much more we could learn and talk about from each other, but I don't want us to go over. So I want to make sure that I acknowledge everyone's time, and I'm sure you all have things that you got to get back to. So with that, I'll thank you, Renee Dawson. Thank you, Christy Sims. Thank you, Allison Stone. I'll name again that the 3 platforms that we focused on today were the Learner Variability Project and platform, and then Pivot, and then also Pear Deck. And I believe that there might be some access or websites that would give you some additional information on how to access those and as we move forward. Again, thank you all for taking your time to be with us today. We wish you all the very best as you move forward, and we hope that you all enjoy the remainder of today's Teacher Tech Summit. Thank you all so much.
Thanks for having us.
Wow, thank you so much, Christy. I absolutely loved that the bell went off while you were presenting. It is perfect, and it's a perfect reminder of the realities that we live. And what's so beautiful about this event in particular is that it's about elevating the voice of the teacher. And so even if that hadn't gone off, next year we need to plan for a couple of school bells to go off just to create that realia in the event. So thank you all so much. And Jacole, I think you have a future as like a Star Search MC or a game show host. You were made for the camera and for the radio. So thank you so much. It really was a pleasure to have you join us today.
It was my absolute pleasure being here with you all, Eric. This has been quite a joy, a nice bit of levity to my workday. So I thank you all so much.
Absolutely. And for those of you who are looking for links to the website, we will provide those for you. I'm going to encourage those on the Digital Promise team. If you have the ability in the chat to add some of those as we go, that would be super helpful. All of those I know are easily Googleable. I just made up a word. If you just search for Learner Variability Project, or you search for Pear Deck, or you search for Pivot Interactives, you'll be able to find links to those as well. All right, Renee, Christy, Allison, you've given us so much to consider, and I really thank you for that. Now we're going to turn to Digital Promise's Chief Strategy Officer. And I want to let everybody know a little secret here. As you can tell, all of our facilitators today are Digital Promise staff, and the next one is also. But he also is the brains behind the Learner Variability Project. And so those of you who are sort of like wowing right now about the free resource, the open source resource that's available to anybody in the world at any time, the Learner Variability Project, you have this gentleman to thank and his team, Vic Vucic. It is so wonderful to have you here today. Vic is the Chief Strategy Officer at Digital Promise. He spent his entire career as a leading educational researcher and consultant, having worked with some of the nation's foremost funders and thought leaders in the space. Vic's commitment to research-based product design and deep understanding of how technology does and does not realize its lofty goals to improve education positions him well to help us imagine how the future of EdTech may evolve. And that is our next masterclass, The Future of Classroom Tech. And so, Vic, welcome. It's such an honor to have you join us on this virtual stage. Thank you for your work creating the LVP. And I'm just so glad that Renee had the opportunity to spotlight the passion work that you do. Take it away, Vic.
Thanks so much, Eric. Really appreciate it. And yes, it's wonderful. I got to see the end of the last session, and it always gives me the warm fuzzies when I see teachers who really enjoy and leverage the Learner Variability Navigator for both themselves and their students to really empower them. So welcome, everybody. It's great to be here. I'm really excited about our session right now. And we're going to be focused on previewing Classroom Tech's future. And we're going to have 3 teachers here that support us, and we're going to kick off now with watching the videos for about 9 minutes, and then we'll have Q&A after that. Looking forward to diving in.
All right, let's see. Planet Mars. So where are we at with our projects? Monica, how you doing with your wearables?
Finally got the light sensor sorted, but I'm kind of stuck with this last one.
Maybe why don't you try debugging the program? Okay, great. Andrea, what do we got?
This is my Marshall habitat, and it's a reference to NASA's habitat.
I love it. Can I see it? Yeah. How long did that take you to print?
3 to 6 hours.
Wow. Okay. Okay. What do we have, Karina? How are we doing with the rover?
I was just about to test the rocker motor suspension. But there you go.
I love it. I love it. Rayshawn?
Right now I'm doing a time pod invention. I'm doing my challenges so I can leave Mars.
So how are we doing? Are you able to take off yet?
Not yet.
Can I take a quick peek and see? Okay. Okay. Hopefully you can get all your set up there and get ready to take off. All right, fantastic.
Wait. Can I ask you a question, Mr. Gonzalez?
Sure.
Why do you teach?
That's a good question. Teaching is a calling, you know. It's a gift with an obligation with it to share with others. You know, it's something I wish I would have known when I was young. And as I've told you all before, education is a life's journey. It's an experience that you take with you all along the way. And now, it's not so much about the destination, but it's about all the wonderful sights and people you encounter along the way.
Like an alien planet?
I guess, yeah.
You never really arrive, right?
Well, once you arrive, you realize that there's another mountain on the other side. You see, this is not just a classroom, but it's a birthplace of ideas and innovation, where not only you explore and discover the world around you, but where you uncover what you're capable of, where you will stumble and learn from your mistakes, and most importantly, where you discover who you are and trust your wings and fly.
I made it. What else can I do?
Hello, fellow educators. My name is Todd Henry, and I'm a special education teacher from Central Illinois. I'd like to take a few moments to tell you about a brand new innovative tool that is really empowering, inspiring kids in one of the most difficult areas of our curriculum. It's called Presto. Students and writing. Wow, that's a tough nut to crack, right? I mean, who doesn't know some students who are afraid of writing or have an aversion to it or downright even hate putting pen to paper or typing out their thoughts, their feelings, their opinions? So what do? One, we can admit that we've taught writing for a really long time the exact same way. And second of all, maybe we need to be open to some new ways to teach writing that would unleash the power of the written word within our students. Some of my students say that writing is downright boring, or that they don't have enough time to write an entire piece in one sitting. With Presto, they get the opportunity to do something totally different, to create their very own booklet, a book in small form. They can choose pictures to put on every single panel to liven up the space, making it multimedia. And it chunks up the work. They don't write the entire piece in one sitting, but they put 2 to 3 sentences on every single panel, making something they can be really proud of to show to their parents, their teacher, and their friends. My students tell me all the time that they don't know what to write, that they got nothing. But I also know that underneath that is a fear of failure, because several of them are at very different reading levels, very different writing levels. And so enter Presto's AI engine. No more looking around the internet for prompts that kids might like to write about. You type in the topic, anything the kids give you. And then also you type in the grade level, first, second, third, fourth, whatever. And instantly there generates prompts for each of those students to write about, something that they care about at their reading level. Here's a couple screenshots from a recent assignment that I did. I put in my favorite sports hero as my topic. I chose the 3rd grade reading level. I chose story, personal narrative out of a variety of writing plans, and it instantly generated a bunch of prompts for me to choose from. Next, after I chose the prompt that I wanted, a whole new set of writing plan tools popped up. Different blocks to use in their booklet, from title to solution to image. Also some signal words to help with sentence starters. And then at the bottom, you'll notice that there were several vocabulary words based on the reading level suggested as well, which you can add to or delete as you wish. I'm so glad I found Presto, because now my students can write what they care about at their reading level and be successful and actually like to write. Thanks for your time. I look forward to fielding some of your questions and having a great time at the rest of the conference.
Hello, my name is Emily Joy. I'm a former math educator and math instructional coach with about 10 years of experience teaching mostly middle school math. Currently, I am the head of content at Chiron Learning, the EdTech platform I wanted to tell y'all about. So our platform offers an interactive video experience for students to progress through math lessons taught by experienced math teachers. Powered by conversational AI, Chiron lets students answer questions using speech or text. And then based on their responses, our teachers provide specific and in-the-moment feedback to guide their learning journey. At Chiron Learning, we are aiming to create really safe and affirming learning environments that celebrate the learning process, including mistakes, which we see as huge opportunities for students to grow. I've learned sometimes that Chiron's easiest to understand once you've seen an example of its use. So here's a short clip of a student who's at the bottom left engaging in one of our lessons with one of our teachers who's at the top right.
I don't want to get in trouble for helping you have too much fun in this lesson, so I only have one more question for this review. How many hundreds are in 76,001?
760.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. That's it. There are 760 hundreds in this number.
So, where and how can Chiron be used? I think Chiron can be used in a variety of ways to support student learning. We've witnessed its success as an in-class supplement and an intervention tool for students who may struggle with previous grade level skills. Furthermore, it can also serve as a homework assignment for those who prefer this approach, or as an advanced resource for students who are ready for more challenging materials, even future grade level content. We've even heard that our videos are great for parents and guardians to review with their students so they can understand how kids are learning math these days. In each of these scenarios, Chiron is designed to be an effective resource for differentiated instruction. And again, our goal is to support educators in meeting the unique needs of their students and to ensure that every student has access to high quality math instruction. There are two big reasons I see Chiron as something that's different. I think the first one is it provides meaningful differentiation for students. I've never seen an EdTech platform that offers students in-the-moment feedback that specifically highlights the misconceptions they are struggling with. And then the other thing is that I think that our platform really does a lot to connect with students beyond math learning. Our teachers on the platform have great personalities, and the video platform allows them to make jokes, be themselves, and bring a human element to the video learning experience that I think is missing on many other platforms. Our users are also given the opportunity to choose which educator they want to learn from and what types of problems interest them, giving students more agency and choice in the learning process. I'm really excited about the future of Chiron and what we have to offer, and I look forward to answering any questions. Thanks so much.
All right, fantastic. What great videos. So inspiring to see the new cutting edge technology. And I want to welcome in our teachers here. I'm going to do a brief introduction of each, and then I'm going to frame something up, and then we'll dive into some questions. So first of all, we have Jose Gonzalez here from the Verizon Innovative Learning Schools, Davis Middle School in Compton, California, and he is a 21st century learning teacher there. Todd Henry, who hails from Central Illinois, Northwest Elementary School, and he's a special education teacher. And then we have Emily Joy, who was a longtime middle school math teacher and is from Chiron Learning. And I'm just going to kick off with a framing, actually, when I was working in the field probably about a decade ago that really kind of hit me. And I think we're finally at a really amazing inflection point. I was actually working with Eric Klopfer, who was from the MIT Media Lab. And he said, this is 10 years ago, he said, I feel like we are where kind of moving film, where film was in the early 1920s when it was just invented. He said, for the first number of years when they figured out how to film things and create movies, all they did was actually record theater productions. And then they would replay them in auditoriums elsewhere, right? And that was all that they could imagine using this for years. And it took a long time for them to realize, oh my God, there's so much more we can do with moving picture and film to create movies in all new ways that really inspire people. And so similarly, think about the parallels. So you feel a lot, the last decade, a lot of ed tech, there's a lot of hype, but a lot of the use was either doing worksheets digitally, right? Or watching lectures digitally, right? And so now, it really is in the last, I would say year or two, there's really been kind of this boom and explosion. And the tools are gotten so much better, and really the value of learner agency and really engaging them. And I think you all have really jumped in to help lead this for how to reimagine teaching and learning in the classroom for kids, and in a way that really reflects the outside world of what's happening in their realities every day. So I'm just going to kick off with a question for all three of you. You're all leaders in this. First of all, thank you for jumping in and reimagining what's possible. And just curious, what was there a moment, or what was the catalyst for you to really, whether it was kind of look for a tool or figure out or find a way to take this jump and really rethink your teaching and pedagogy with these tools that you have for your learners? And what really made you take that big step? Because it is a big step. And let's start with I'll start with Todd.
I would say that when I came across Presto, I was really searching for a non-traditional way of teaching writing. Normal teaching writing is just going for structure and the editing, those kinds of things. But I have, specifically in the special education environment, I've got some kids that are behind in learning and compared to their grade level. So they're even more demotivated they can't keep up with their peers, that kind of thing. And so the AI portion of obviously helped me with the coming up with the prompts to be able to get kids to be able to write what they want to write instead of me kind of feast or famine guessing on what they were into. And then just them taking over the writing project and just like the idea of making a book like it's my thing. And it's not, I'm just not writing what Mr. Henry wants me to do and kind of seeking his approval, but that I'm getting my own book together and I'm getting AI kind of assistance with that all along the way.
I love it. That's great. And it really, it sounds like it really provide kind of a scaffolded space, but where they can really wander and explore and generate, which I think is so key for to be honest, respecting the learners to really understand and drive their own learning. Jose, how about you? What was was there a moment or a catalyst where you really kind of jumped into this? Obviously, you have amazing technologies there that you're using.
Thank you. Well, part of it is the training, right? All the support that we received, one through Digital Promise and also our own EdTech department. And you were talking about substitution, that SAMR model that actually starts with substitution and augmentation and moves on to modification and redefinition. And learning knows, make the transition also as, having our role being defined. We used to be the sole source of information, and now we're more like facilitators and guides. And a lot of the time, it's hard to keep up with all the technology. And so the kids, learn faster than you do. And we're sharing together. And it's more of a cooperative learning experience, I think.
That's great. That's great. All right, Emily, how about you yourself, both as a teacher and with Chiron? Kind of what made you make that jump?
Yeah, thanks, Vic. I think it's a really interesting question. I think a lot back to my time as a teacher, just like not having the time to do all of the things that I needed to do to move students in the way that they needed to grow and to learn. And so I think one of the big things that upon leaving the classroom and then working with Chiron that I continue to think about is like, how can we support teachers to make their jobs more seamless when we continue to ask so much of teachers? And so what are tools for differentiation that actually provide students in the moment feedback and allow them to have some agency in how they want to learn? I think a lot about getting onto YouTube, getting onto Netflix. You have so much options and so many options to make what you watch and what you consume your own and, your own enjoyment. And I think being in a classroom as one adult with 30 students, it's impossible to be able to do that for every single student. And so if technology exists where we can consume content like Netflix, why can't we have that also for something like education, where we are supporting our teachers, not taking anything away from them, but instead assisting them and allowing them to have, hopefully, a more sustainable profession.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, saving teachers' time is critical. And like you said, it really is tough when you have 30 kids in a classroom and to differentiate and meet them where they are. And really being able to do that. And part of that strategy is also providing agency to the learners where they can be driving their own learning. And then that takes a little bit off the teacher where they don't have to be there for every single step. And I think we saw some great examples. First of all, I want to encourage our participants to drop questions into the comments section. This is an open discussion, and I'd love to bring in some questions. And I think here we go. We have a nice highlight. Someone's favorite quote. It took 30 years for the overhead projector to move from the bowling alley to common use in the classroom. I love it. That's exactly right. What's so amazing is how much this is already being used even outside of school. I heard that there's hundreds of millions of hours of learning videos watched on YouTube every single day. There's actually more learning happening in humanity than there ever has been because of all the information and knowledge that we have, which is so powerful. I'd love to hear Jose, and really, what jumped out in your video was your students were clearly engaged and in many cases even leading, their own learning. And so do you have some stories about where you as the teacher kind of gave them the room, but they then kind of started leading and as you said, the technology changing and they're learning and kind of bringing and starting to drive, what's happening in the classroom, both in their own learning, but even for yourself as a teacher?
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in project-based learning. So a lot of the times the students are working on community issues or global issues, and we're bringing them into the classroom. And studies I've found show that when students are working on things that affect them or the community, that they're more engaged. They come after school, they come on Saturdays, and also when you give them the opportunity to choose how they're going to learn and what they're going to learn. And so we do a lot of student-centered work in the classroom. And I give you the example for the Mars project. I came up with an idea. Hey, so what do we need to survive on Mars? And we started brainstorming. And I let the teams, we had all female captains, and they picked their own teams to lead. I wanted to give the girls opportunity as well to be leaders. I know, they have that opportunity. And they chose the categories. They chose the teams. And each team was assigned a specific task. You had a rover team, you had a habitat team, you had a life support team. And I gave them the basic information about Mars, and they took off using the technology, some of them with coding skills, some of them robotics. They used Tinkercad to build their little habitats. They printed them out, and the Mars just started appearing before our eyes. It was just amazing to watch them. Yeah.
That's phenomenal. What a great story. I love it. We have some good questions coming in. Looks like AI is trending. Surprise, surprise. Todd, how do your students feel about the AI? What's their kind of reaction to some of these auto-generated prompts and whatnot that's embedded in Presto?
Well, I think they really love the customization of it, that it's just going to be content that they want to participate in or that they want to learn about and those kinds of things. I mean, I'm at the elementary level, so I can't say that a lot of my students are doing it on their own or really aware of ChatGPT yet and that kind of thing. But I think in Presto, I would say in talking with their leadership, AI is such a buzz, such a fear among a lot of educators, but at the same time, there's so many positives. I think that they're in the stage of using AI to equip teachers right now, not necessarily putting the full thing in the hands of the students. So there's even a thing that they're going to be releasing soon called the Writing Buddy, which actually the students get an initial kind of format and a skeleton for the writing. And then it reads all that and then comes back and says, what about this? Or maybe you want to strengthen this sentence and maybe talk about this. So it's not giving them the answer. It's not writing the whole thing for them per se, but it is totally custom to right where they are, instant feedback on their actual stuff. And so they get the output that they want and the result that they want. And so I think kids love that portion of that.
It's a great example. And I think here, let me pivot to Emily and then we'll also open this up for yours. Obviously, ChatGPT is a huge buzz right now. And, there are different reactions to it. Some call it a cheating app. Some call it a brilliant, innovation that can open up learning in new ways. How have you worked with colleagues of yours or, Emily, in your case, teachers that you're trying to work with on the AI and yours, in your platform and Todd as well, and then also Jose with ChatGPT. How do you see it playing out with some of your colleagues? And do you have strategies for how to help them kind of understand, step into this kind of next gen world of technology that's emerging? So we'll start with Emily.
Yeah, I wish this question was asked in like all sort of conversations around how we use technology in classrooms, because I think the first thing that has to be true is teachers have to feel supported. It can't be like, here's this new shiny thing that will make your life easier. We're going to drop it and leave you to figure it out, because people don't have the time to do that. And so things like ChatGPT, I saw a comment earlier about ChatGPT 4 as well, like using that as like an integration tool in the classroom. think if it works for the teacher, if the teacher's receiving professional development that's making it something they're feeling excited about and they feel like it's a easy thing to use and it's going to be good for their classroom, I'm all for it. I think one of the things that I hear a lot when talking to educators across the country about Chiron Learning is there is a fear of AI because what if the AI is incorrect? And so one of the reasons that I love Chiron Learning is every single thing that we do is designed by an experienced educator. At no point are we turning it over to some piece of artificial intelligence that's like, let's hope that it delivers the correct answer or the correct response to a student. And so I think as technology companies and as teachers who are bringing technology into their classroom, there is a level of due diligence from the technology companies to make sure that everything that they're putting in front of students is accurate, is safe, and teachers feel supported by.
That's a great point. Obviously, high teacher support is really important. They're so busy, and to help them integrate things does take time and effort. But creating some of the safe space, I think what you touched on is a little bit of also like human in the loop. That it's not just kind of let this roll out. Jose, any example? We saw in your video that you use ChatGPT to generate some things and working with colleagues. Do you have any advice on how to support that?
One is a tool. It's a tool, just like calculators and everything else, right? I'm reminded of, didn't Plato's, one of his theses, he said about books, and the God of knowledge was arguing that books are going to take away our wisdom and knowledge somewhere. So I think I use it a lot of times for help me write some basic of my lesson, and then I can add more details to it. It definitely saves me time. The kids use it to check their programs, the Arduino programs. And they use it to check out, see how the program is correct or not. And plus, I think for us, we created an environment where it's okay for the kids to make mistakes and fail. So if they want to try something doesn't work, they want to see how it works. So there's always that experimentation that we have. So
yeah,
it's just another tool that, as long as there's a balance, I think.
Yep, absolutely. So let me, we're getting towards the end. We just have another minute or two. I'm gonna, Todd, I want to give you a question here.
Sure.
Especially super fascinating. You work with special education, learners. So what would you really like to see? Let's imagine we're back here 3 years from now. What would you like to see as kind of the next iteration for whether it's Presto or things that go around that in the work that you're doing, especially with kids with learning differences?
Yeah, great question, Vic. I think, it's differentiation is the big key in the special ed world. It's just leveling the playing field. And I like how, whether you come up with like writing prompts, but you're able to say the same topic, the same subject, but write in generate a second grade way of saying that or a fifth grade way of saying that. And then I've got kids in the same class, but they're at those different reading levels, same ages, but different, and so it levels the playing field. And likewise with technology, providing tools to where kids have the same access and the same ability to use the same tools to get whatever creative stuff is in their brain that can bring to fruition. So doing that at all different levels and making kids feel successful right where they're at to grow to the next stage in their development is huge.
That sounds great. Well, with that, I think we're at the end. I feel like we could keep going for hours here. There's so much interesting work. But I want to thank you all for the work you're doing, the innovation that you're pushing, and the engagement of your students and learners and empowering them and being a real model for what the future of learning can really look like, which is really exciting.
Wow, Vic, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Wow, Vic, thank you so much. It certainly is an interesting time to be an educator, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I really appreciate our forward thinkers, Jose, Todd, and Emily, for giving us a peek at where digital transformation might take us. And I'm super grateful for folks like you, Vic, to help us navigate the uncertainty ahead. So thank you for your leadership in this space as well.
Absolutely. Thanks, Eric. It's wonderful.
You know, I am sitting here at ASU GSV thinking about both the experience that's happening with 7,500 folks in the EdTech space here live in San Diego, and thinking about how they need to be here watching this event happen. We have folks from Nigeria, Georgia, Argentina, Egypt, Israel, Lebanon, Maine, North Carolina, Florida, California, Oregon. We have folks from India, a shout out to Arizona and Bucks County, Tunisia. And most recently, we had somebody log on and say hello to us from Syria. That was Ragda. You know, I'm reminded about what's happening in the rest of the world in places like Syria and Ukraine, and reminded that there are educators who are existing in this space who continue to do the amazing work that needs to be done for a generation of learners. And no matter what context our people are joining us from, the fact that they are spending their time here with
Okay, well, welcome
Hi.
everyone.
Sure.
Hi, Rita, it's lovely seeing you. And Eric, are you back?
I'm back. Were you able to hear me at least?
We heard that you're giving away free money.
Oh, yes. Well, I'm not giving, I'm giving away your free money, Vikas. So be ready to pay up. All right. So I'll just start again in case you didn't hear me. Rita, it's great to have you join us on screen. Our fifth and final masterclass is going to be led by Rita Finelli Atkinson, and who better to facilitate today's masterclass on accessing personalized professional learning than you, Rita, as you oversee as the micro-credentials program here at Digital Promise as the director. She's a former science and special education teacher, researcher, and learning designer who now spends her time helping teachers design quality professional development experience for other teachers through the super popular and highly effective format of micro-credentialing. Rita, it's so great to have you. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Eric. I am so thrilled to be here. Like Eric said, this is the final masterclass. We are so grateful that so many of you have joined us today. And we are focusing on accessing personalized professional learning. We have already heard from so many amazing educators, and I am so excited to introduce you to even more. Our featured educators will share their experiences and how they use personalized professional learning with technology to improve their practice and better meet the needs of their learners. Let's watch their videos now.
Hi, my name is Todd Rigney, and I'm an instructional technologist with the Houston Independent School District. And I'm going to be talking to you about how I was able to bring personalized professional development to my campus through the Verizon Innovative Learning School program. The Verizon Innovative Learning School program with Digital Promise is a one-to-one program that helps bring technological equity to middle and high school students in marginalized communities. The program provides devices, data for the devices, and ongoing coaching support by a VILS coach, such as myself. The Verizon Innovative Learning School program realizes that while apps are important in education, there needs to be an increase in skilled people training teachers on how to effectively implement this technology in the classroom. And that's where I, as the VILS coach, come into play. I'm able to provide one-on-one and whole group coaching and training for my teachers on how to effectively implement technology in the classroom. I'm able to do classroom observations to see how technology is currently being utilized on my campus. I then take those observations and turn them into one-on-one coaching sessions with my teachers to help get them to the next step on their technological journey. I form a group of teachers called the Teacher Leader Collaborative to help me implement technological growth on my campus. I've also gotten to work with students by forming a student tech team, hosting student lunch and learns, having students teach teachers during PLC, and forming student technology committees to better help improve my campus. I work closely with campus leadership to create, develop, and implement strategies for technology use in the classroom. The VILS coach helps to drive the program on the campus. The Verizon Innovative Learning School program is the technology that enables me to provide professional development, one-on-one coaching support, and technological equity for all on my campus.
Hello, my name is Dr. Colon Diaz, and I will be talking about accessing personalized professional learning. Here is a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and I moved into Las Vegas in 2016. I've been a teacher since then. Right now, I work as a 4th grade lead teacher for a Title I school in the North Vegas area. My experience using Digital Promise, specifically the micro-credential platform, I would say was a very successful one. I got awarded with 16 micro-credentials in a time frame of a year or less from different stacks, 6 different stacks that you can see here. This is how the platform looks like. When you get awarded, you will see it's easy to see which ones you need to complete, which ones you haven't started, which ones are in process, because they have that little label on the top that tells you where is your status of each of them. I actually started my main purpose was to get an increase in my salary. My organization give us the opportunity to do professional development for credits, and the micro-credentials were part of those credits. And for us, it's for free. So I just went to my Digital Promise page and created an account, looked for my organization, and I found all the stacks right there. They look like this. This is one of the stacks this is one of the micro-credential, understanding school-based data. And you just have to click on apply. And as you can see, it's very accessible. We have all the overview, the details, resources for research. So you don't have to research in any other place because everything is in there. So the inversion was reimbursed to me at the end when I completed it. And also I can go back and review all the things that I did and the projects that I created, because everything is stored in my Digital Promise page. So I can go back now and see what projects did I did for every micro-credential and where was my research, and reference to that for my current work. We have some resources and the description. You also have the rubric, so you know how you will be evaluated, and they give you feedback in case that you didn't get to pass, and you can always resubmit it until you passed it. The implications for my career, it was the research skills. I learned a lot of research. I designed projects that I can use as part of my career, the professional development, leadership opportunities, and the time. And I believe that's it. If you have any questions, just let me know and I will be here ready to answer. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Liz Brown. I teach 7th grade math at La Colina Junior High in Santa Barbara.
Hi, I'm Tracy Womack, and I teach math and coding robotics at La Colina Junior High in Santa Barbara, California.
I'm Janet Hollister. I'm the secondary math instructional support specialist in Santa Barbara Unified. So as Santa Barbara Unified was coming out of COVID, we decided that we really needed to commit to assessments that helped us understand where students are at and what they were able to do. Through the Math Annex, we've engaged in professional learning that helps not just the teacher content knowledge of what students are thinking when they put down certain responses, but how to use that student thinking to be able to design re-engagement lessons that values and honors students' thinking.
I have the opportunity to actually support kids in learning and in growing in ways that when they take something, for example, like a star, it doesn't exist. There's vertical alignment from grades 6 all the way up to grades 12. There's some problems that span multiple grade levels, and some that are unique to 7th grade. But I can see where kids are growing, and we can see how sometimes kids in 7th grade answer something better, or stronger than kids who haven't seen it for a long time in 11th grade. But you can see this progression of growth through a school district. And when that happens, then we can have conversations with our colleagues in different grade levels. And that's unique.
I've always known that there's something, that little nagging thing about these test scores that are just numbers or color codings that don't really provide meaning into what students know. And so it's given me an opportunity to really embrace this idea of asset-based learning, which I think is really important, especially coming out of 2+ years of COVID and students learning being very disrupted with all that. It's important for us to know what they know and how we can meet their needs. So, and how math teachers look at students is to shift from that deficit-based to asset-based.
The assessment technology would not be nearly as effective without the professional development, because learning new habits and learning how to engage with data is something that takes time.
Right. So without that professional development support from Math Annex, all of this new thinking could fall by the wayside.
Because it allows us to build community. It allows us to have a resource. It allows us to become better educators. And there's not a lot out there for math teachers. And this is actually really incredible stuff.
Wonderful. Weren't those videos amazing? All of our panelists are near and dear to my heart. Join me in giving a really warm welcome to our panelists. As a former VILS coach myself, I am happy to introduce Todd Rigney, a middle school Verizon Innovative Learning Schools coach in Houston, who is speaking today about the Verizon Innovative Learning Schools teacher training pathways.
Hello.
And as the director of the Micro-Credentials program, I am also thrilled to introduce La Doctora Wanda Colon Diaz, an elementary school teacher and college instructor in Las Vegas, Nevada, who is speaking about personalization with the Digital Promise Micro-Credential platform. And as a former educator advocate for the effective integration of technology through professional learning, I am so happy that Janet Hollister is with us today. She is a middle school educator from Santa Barbara, California. And to our attendees, we are so happy to have you here. Please let us know if you have any questions that you would like us to share with our panelists today, because they have some great insights. So I'm going to get started with a really quick question for everyone. So based on the personalized professional learning that you have been able to access, what has been the biggest benefit of being able to access such personalized resources for you? And Todd, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. You know, learning is a personal journey. And I think back to when I was a classroom teacher, not all students learn the same. And, you know, from that same perspective, not all teachers or adults learn the same. And being able to provide that one-on-one support for the teachers ultimately helps the students. And those are our stakeholders in education. Those are the future, you know, leaders in the world. And being able to help our teachers one-on-one and give them the support they need ultimately just improves the students as well. So it's a never-ending cycle of support and improvement.
Wanda, how about you?
Well, I have to agree with everything that Todd just said. I think we never end learning. It's a continuous process. Doesn't matter, where is your profession or your position. You always are learning, and being able to do this professional development through the micro credentials, it was a gain for me, but also for my school and my students, because I was able to get to understand more of the things that how our district is functioning, and also to create and develop some projects that with just little adaptations, I was able to implement them here in my classroom and benefit not just my students or my coworkers, but also the whole community as a community project. And all that started with my professional development through my micro credentials.
Awesome. And how about you, Janet?
I think the work that we've been doing with our asset-oriented math assessment through Math Annex, there's two parts of it that have been really exciting. Is one in looking at data in different ways, being able to sit down with the teacher. And sometimes in math, we just think about right answers and wrong answers. But actually sort of this learning that comes through the platform in terms of how was a student thinking and what are next moves was just something, even sometimes for a teacher's own content knowledge. Oh, that's what the student was thinking, was just good professional learning. And then the other part of it, once you have that understanding, how do you actually re-engage students? So in my space, it's two, the teacher content knowledge, and then the pedagogical moves that teachers need to take to address students' current thinking.
Wonderful. Well, I know when I was an educator, oftentimes professional development was delivered as a one-size-fits-all. We all had to sit through the same presentation, and oftentimes we had to sit through the same training multiple times. I'm sure we've all experienced that at some point. So I know each of your journeys has been different, but when do you think that this personalized approach to professional learning occurred? And I know all of you are coming from different parts of the country, and all of us have different school contexts. So where did that shift occur, and what made you motivated to really pursue it? And this time, let's start with Wanda.
Can you repeat both the whole question again, because I missed the last part?
Oh, yes, of course. So when did you notice the shift to a more personalized approach to professional learning, and what made you motivated to pursue it?
In my case, I actually started looking for a professional development. It was more like a personal thing when I started. In my case, the shift was backwards. I started with my personal thinking on this is just for me, this is just for professional development, just for me to learn a little bit more. And then I ended up realizing that I actually can't make those projects that I was developing through my micro credentials and make them alive and actually implement them in the classroom and impact as I said, the students and the community. So in my case, everything started being for a professional and personal gaining and thinking on this is what I need to get my advanced salary or to get my credits to renew my license. And then in the process is when I realized, well, I actually can implement this in the school. Like this actually is gonna be worth it to do it. And analyzing the data, then I was like, well, I need to analyze the data for my students so I can actually understand how are they doing and what can I do to help them to do better. And those are the things that then I started sharing not just for the benefit of my students, but also as a team leader, I started sharing that with my colleagues. Well, I do this in this way, in the other way. This worked for me. This might work for you, and they also do their own stuff. And it's kind of like everything started going in place for the benefit of the school and the students and the community.
Wonderful. And Janet, how about you? When did you start noticing the shift for a desire for personalized professional learning, and what motivated you to pursue that in your work?
So I do think that COVID was really a big impetus for this. We needed to know more about our students and how to help our students. And so once we started to realize we've got to understand whether this is an access issue of whether students are making sense of the mathematics, whether it's a content issue, they understand what they're supposed to do, they just can't do it, or a communication issue. So it really sort of started from a student need in what do we need, how do we need to help students? And then through that, how do we help teachers navigate the different paths? They might have strengths in one area. They already know how to help students access complex text, but maybe they need help in another area. So really looking at student need and figuring out how we can provide them the information and the professional learning to make good choices for their kiddos.
Wonderful. And how about you, Todd? When did you notice the shift, and what motivated you to go down that rabbit hole?
Yeah, obviously COVID was a huge part. For me, it happened a little bit before that as I started working my way up the teacher leader ladder. My second year teaching, I was kind of thrust into a position where I was science department chair, and it was my second year teaching. So I took it upon myself to learn all that I could. And when I was talking to the teachers in my department, I just got this overwhelming feeling that, this one size fits all coaching and, professional development wasn't working. It's not that it couldn't work, it just wasn't working. I wasn't seeing growth. So I took it upon myself to actually start coaching these new teachers as they came in. And in my mind, that's when I'm like, wow, I now see the benefit and the possibility that one-on-one coaching and support can have versus these giant sit and get sessions.
Wonderful. Well, you all have highlighted some really important aspects about personalized professional learning, which is, a lot of educators are personally interested in pursuing more professional development. And then Janet, as you said, in some cases, it's really about focusing on the learners and, figuring out how to address their needs. And then Todd, as you pointed out, sometimes it's just really important to support our teachers so that they can be effective in their practices. So those are all such great insights. And I would really love for each of you now to highlight what you think this personalized approach has led to as far as results and impacts for your learners, for your students. Obviously, we want to support our educators, but ultimately we're doing that so that our students can benefit from, their growth and improvement. So Janet, how about we start off with you? What are the benefits that you have seen for your students?
I think one of the biggest shifts that we're in the process of making is using student thinking to drive the learning both for teachers and for adults. It is not what we're thinking, what we're trying to tell them what to think, but they have conceptions about the way that mathematics works. How do we support teachers to use what students are giving us, being able to analyze what kids are saying and then using that? And so really just at the heart of this is a humanization in math, because math can be a rather sometimes inhumane subject area. And so I just think that that's one of the biggest benefits for students is using their thinking to improve their thinking, helping teachers do that.
Todd, how about you?
I think the biggest thing I've noticed is a shift in the culture of the school. especially with the students. I find that their creativity has expanded through the use of technology. They are way more motivated. I have, as I mentioned in my video, student lunch and learns and student-led PLCs for teachers. I have students begging me to lead these things. And these are 6th grade students that want to teach 7th and 8th graders how to use specific tech tools and how to teach their teachers because they're interested in doing it in their own class. So honestly, giving students that voice on campus in their own educational journey, I think has been the biggest impact of this program so far.
Wonderful. And how about you, Wanda? What impacts have you seen on your learners?
I have two major things that I have noticed in them. One of the micro credentials that I worked on actually during the COVID time, it was a community project based on how can we help students and parents to be able to access the students' learning and understand the assignments, the homework, the content that we were working on during the school day. And then COVID hit. And we were like, okay, now everything changes. Right now, during these weeks, we have been running here at Lincoln a community project for parents and students based on mindfulness. So one of the things that we are doing is trying to combine the academic subjects, especially writing, because our students kind of like have that area as an area of improvement. So we are focusing on writing, and we are using also CASEL standards to make sure that we integrate their emotions and have them to express how they feel at school, at home, at the community, things that they have experienced, so they can express that through writing and also through art. And then the parents come, the parents are able to be here and watch what we are doing. We have teachers that speak Spanish also, and other student teachers that are from Philippines. So they are helping me with the project, and we are kind of like trying to covering our population. And also we will have an exhibition of all their art and writing work. That's one of the things. The other thing that I believe it helped me to improve, to help them, was the analyzing data. So the fact that I was able to understand how to interpret the data that we are collecting as a teacher daily basis, it will help me to create differentiated instruction activities, to create small group activities, and that will was translated to a huge growth during the first MAPS window. And hopefully we will see some more other growth now while we are doing the national test during this week.
Wonderful. Well, I heard so many great things. I heard, that this approach is lending itself to more student leadership, to making student thinking more visible, and also bringing the community, into the school and, involving everyone, which is absolutely amazing. Now, one of the things that I often hear anytime anything about personalization and education is brought up is that, it can be really difficult because, educators already have so much on their plate. They don't have enough time, and they are really interested in understanding really how it's a sustainable practice. So would anyone like to talk about that?
I can touch on that first if you'd like. Obviously, teachers have no time, right? And even the minuscule teacher planning time they get during the day is never enough. I work really hard to fight for my teachers with administration, because sometimes teachers aren't internally motivated. Sometimes they need external motivation to kind of get the ball rolling on their professional development journey. So I work really hard with administration to, for lack of a better word, incentivize our teachers to improve upon their craft. Because ultimately, as I said earlier, if I'm a better teacher, I have better results with my students. So working with leadership as an incentive has worked really well on my campus.
Wonderful. Okay, we have about 2 minutes left, so I hate to wrap up. But time snuck up really quickly on us. I just really want to thank you all for joining us today, and for everyone out there. I invite you all to explore the resources that are available. I'm sure that you will have access to links on the website, but I know the Verizon Innovative Learning Schools program is one of Digital Promise offerings, as is the micro-credential platform and the micro-credentials, which are all available on the Digital Promise website. And then, of course, you know, Janet spoke about Math Annex, which I'm sure if you Google Math Annex, you can find more resources about that tool and how it is used. And I hope that as you all walk away and move into closing this Teacher Tech Summit, that we really embody the ideas that all of our educators have highlighted today, which is that we have so many amazing people who are invested in education, who are looking for ways to not only improve themselves, but also improve experience for their students and community. And I just couldn't ask for a better representation than the educators that we have featured on this panel. So I want to thank you so much for all of you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Eric, back to you.
All right, terrific. Thank you, Rita. Thank you, Todd, Wanda, and Janet. We so appreciate your thoughtfulness and your insight. My brain is full and my heart is fuller. If this relatively small snapshot of what is happening in schools across North America is any indication of the learning and innovation that is happening in our classrooms, then we are in an incredible position to meet the moment. We have a great deal to accomplish and no shortage of challenges, but the teachers we've heard from today and the thoughtful digital solutions they have chosen to leverage provide me hope, and I imagine they provide you hope as well. I appreciate that each of our facilitators shared their big takeaways from each of their respective master classes, and I concur. Increasing our aperture slightly, my takeaways are these. We all have the power to make transformative change for students. How do we bring to bear that power in each student as they have power too? How do we unleash and unlock their potential? Just being here today, as our guest speaker opened with today, you are saying that you believe in the inherent capacity and potential in our students. Students live in a media-rich environment, as we learned from our first master class, learning and innovation that purposefully integrates technology and allows students greater voice and choice and authentic assessment and sharing, engages them in powerful ways. And yes, assessment can be an opportunity for creation as well. Students are innately creative, and creativity is not a soft skill. It's a durable life skill that is transferable to so many contexts now in their lives and in their educational and career futures. We also learned that the role of the educator has and should expand to include the development of durable social emotional life skills, and technology has an effective, helpful, and important role to play in addressing the needs of the whole child beyond their academic progress. Addressing the whole child includes getting to know student interests and talents, giving teachers and peers the opportunity to encourage and promote relevant encouragement, and connecting learning to what matters to students. We also learned that today's classroom requires us to consider the varying learning strengths and needs of each individual student. Technologies allow teachers the opportunity to finally realize the benefits of competency-based learning, something that I have been chasing as an educator for years. One of the biggest barriers to implementing competency-based practices is the time-intensive labor involved in doing so. But technology today has shown us that it's creating the efficiencies so that more teachers can embrace competency-based learning. Technology effectively levels the playing field for students and teachers, and immediate feedback is essential to student learning in a competency-based environment. Tech provides that capability. The classroom, as we learned, and Jose perfectly said, the classroom is a place of discovery, a place where you trust your wings and fly. Wasn't that an amazing video? So inspirational. The future for tech is bright, but it's also replete with challenges that educational leaders and teachers must be empowered to address and overcome. With open source AI now available, EdTech is experiencing a period of rapid change and expansion. AI allows learning to be truly generative for each individual student. AI is a dramatic innovation, allowing real teachers to respond to students in one-on-one settings without the teacher actually physically being there. Can you believe that? Amazing. But with these new technologies, teachers must feel and be supportive and supported. The fear is real. We have to show up for it and push into it. Everything tech companies put in front of our students must be accurate and safe. And lastly, we learned that sit and get professional development is limiting. Teachers today want choice and ownership. Technology can empower teachers to access their own just-in-time professional learning. Micro-credentialing is one example of platforms that provide teachers the agency teachers desire and deserve. Teachers coaching teachers is a model that works, especially when coaching supports teachers with tech integration. And lastly, technology integration can and does provide an opportunity for research-based EdTech companies to partner with districts for personalized professional development in EdTech's implementation. Not just about the tech, but expanding teacher mindsets, practices, and collaboration. Great EdTech partners with educators to make learning more effective. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you a mentor of mine, a mentor of many of yours on the screen today, and a mentor of so many. He served as a teacher, a site principal, and a superintendent of large, complicated organizations, has served as a researcher and a grant maker, and is now the executive director of Digital Promise. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Jean-Claude Brizard for our closing comments. Jean-Claude, take it.
Eric, thank you so very much. Never thought of you as a mentee, certainly. So 30 years in public education. Let me just start by saying, first of all, that I'm in complete awe of all of you and the work that you all are doing as amazing teachers across the world and frankly across the US of A. I always tell people I became a much better teacher when I became a principal, and my sort of trajectory in professional learning continues as I moved on to becoming the head of high schools for New York City, a superintendent in Rochester, New York, and in Chicago, and even now, frankly, as I visit schools across the country. I say that because I kept watching more and more teachers teach, and the more I watched, the more I listened, the better I became as a teacher. And I only wish, frankly, that so many more teachers in the U.S. could just sit and listen to everything that was talked about today, because that is the way in which, frankly, I do be increasing our craft. Let me just again, huge thank you to the Digital Promise staff, to Eric Burmeister for his leadership, for our T4 colleagues, and most of all, frankly, for all of the teachers who led the masterclass conversations today. I heard so much about Amira Learning, tech products, whole child. I love the discussions. I was a science teacher. I taught physics and chemistry. I taught science at the middle school level, in physics and chemistry at the high school level. LVP, tech, the VILS program, the Verizon program, all, frankly, were terrific pieces to really inform the work that we actually are doing. The bell going off, I thought, was classic because it demonstrates that these are real teachers in real schools doing real work. And that's what's really what makes this so critical and important. Let me just end by saying the following. You know, we have a paper soon to be released on digital transformation. And there we talk about, frankly, the role of technology in really enabling teaching and learning. What we say very simply is, and we sort of paraphrase Dr. Richard Elmore, the late Dr. Richard Elmore at Harvard University, who says that the most important relationship in education is between teachers, students, content. And of course, we've learned that we have to include families as a part of a four-legged stool. The question around technology is, how will technology augment the intelligence of the relationship? Because ultimately, it really is about what happens in the classrooms between these adults and how the family is actually engaged in the process. And we know that tech can really help improve or enrich or augment that kind of intelligence. We are here in San Diego, California, at this massive conference on technology with educators, researchers, funders, etc. And what we keep pushing, and I have a panel coming up in a couple of hours, what we push very simply is that tech developers and tech products can learn a ton from listening to the folks in front of students, with students who have to leverage these technologies to actually improve the teaching and learning process. So this is why we are here, to make sure that they're listening to educators. And we've got teachers here, we've got principals here, site leaders. We also have superintendents who are here to really inform the work of these product developers in the work that we actually are doing. So again, thank you so very much for your leadership. I think our world will get better and better with amazing teachers like all of you. So again, thank you for being here today.
All right. Thank you so much, Jean-Claude, for stretching our thinking. Thank you also for the upcoming paper on digital transformations. I've gotten a sneak peek of it, and it is powerful. I'm really excited for Digital Promise to continue to lead this conversation at such a critical time in EdTech. Teachers and school leaders throughout the country and rely on the research and innovation that is led by Digital Promise. We hope that you will connect with us on LinkedIn or your other preferred social media outlets. We also look forward to the Digital Promises team's continued partnership, especially as we are entering this season of uncertainty. Now, if my sources are correct, I understand that Digital Promise is preparing to announce a new networking opportunity for innovative teacher leaders and principals. As someone who has personally benefited from the powerful networking that Digital Promise provides, I'm going to go out on a limb and encourage teachers and principals on this call to be on the lookout for announcements from Digital Promise regarding those opportunities to engage in future networks. I also want to extend a big thank you to Vikas Pota and Mike Fisher of the T4 Education Network for spearheading the Teacher Tech Summit and inviting Digital Promise to co-sponsor this regional event for North America. If you are an educator and have benefited from today's event, T4 Education invites you to become a member of the largest global teacher network by visiting their website or downloading their app, as Vikas shared with us earlier today. On behalf of Digital Promise and T4 Education, I'd like to thank today's sponsors, Owl Ventures and the World Bank, as well as our facilitators from Digital Promise, Rita, Vic, Jacole, Jessica, and Lisa. A big shout out to the 15 teachers who shared their experience, expertise, and passion with us today. You and your colleagues inspire us daily. We have learned so much from you today and been inspired to continue to find ways to meet the unique needs of all of our students. Keep inspiring. And lastly, thank you to you, our audience, for joining today, for engaging in this discussion, and for keeping the conversation going in staff rooms, at dinner tables, in classrooms, and on social media. The answers are always in the room. Be sure to follow Digital Promise and T4 Education and connect with individuals you've met today on your favorite social media platform. Until next time, it's been my pleasure to join you today. Have a wonderful evening.